trillion for 4 years. We're going to be 21 trillion for 1 year. I think that's hard to believe. The biggest in history was a certain country, 3 trillion. We're going to be 21 trillion. On top of that, prices are coming down. We inherited a mess with high prices, the worst inflation in the history of our country. We had inflation that was a single 4 years, the worst inflation in the history of the United States. Gas prices through the roof, and that's after destroying our petroleum reserve, which was meant for wars and big emergencies, not to try and win an election. They opened up the reserve so that people get $3 less in gasoline, and it didn't work. They got about 3 cents less, because as big as those reserves are, they're peanuts when you're talking about that kind of traffic. And we're rebuilding the reserves. We're doing all of this, and we've done a job. We're also bringing down prices very substantially, and we've already brought them down very, very substantially. Gasoline is way down. I think you'll be seeing $2 gasoline, but we're now at $2.50, $2.45. Some are lower than that. It was $4.50, $5, $6, $3.50, $3.75, under Biden, all different numbers, but way high. And we have energy way down. But the biggest thing to me, because I know what it means in jobs, is the fact that we're at over $17 trillion, Scott, and we expect to be around $21 trillion in 1 year. And that's many times bigger than in history. The highest number was $3 trillion. And we're going to be at 21 trillion. That means new plants, new AI, new auto plants. We have auto plants coming in from Canada, from Mexico, from Germany, from Japan. Toyota just agreed to invest $10 billion on new auto plants, all American workers. We've never been in a position like this. You can go back to the beginning. Our country has never been in a position like this. And it really is because of the fact that we use tariffs to bring all this money in. And you're going to see the results in a year when these plants start to open up. We have more plants under construction now than at any time in the history of our country. And these are big plants. These are the biggest plants anywhere in the world. And I want to thank you because you've agreed to invest $600 billion into the United States. And because he's my friend, he might make it $1 trillion, but I'm going to have to work on him. But it's 600. We can count on 600 billion, but that number could go up a little bit higher. Yes, sir. I don't know. We'll see. But we appreciate it very much. So Saudi is going to be investing at least $600 billion, and that means investments in plants, in companies, money on Wall Street. And what it really means for everybody that really counts is jobs, a lot of jobs. We have a lot of jobs. So I just want to thank you. We've been really good friends for a long period of time. We've always been on the same side of every issue. I think we've done a great job in wiping out the nuclear capacity of Iran. Nobody else could have done that. No other president would have done it. We had the pilots in the Oval Office right here. We were celebrating a very successful attack. So I had them in with that beautiful B-2 bomber that's over there. And they said, sir, for 22 years, we practiced this attack. Our predecessors, these were very young guys, so 22 years, they said our predecessors and us practiced the attack on Iran. But no president ever gave us the go-ahead. 3 times a year they went out and they practiced the attack. Nobody let us do it until you came along, and I let them do it because it was the right thing to do. You can't have a nuclear Iran. And so we put you in a very good position. But I just want to say it's an honor to be your friend, and it's an honor that you're here. And if you'd like to say a few words, but thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Mr. President. This relation has been a relation for about 9 decades, and we've been working together for a long time. But today it's a very important time in our history because there is also a lot of things that we're working in the future. We believe in the future of the United States of America. We believe in what you're doing, Mr. President, really creating a lot of good things and good foundation to create more economic growth, more business in America. And it will also your work for the world peace. I believe, Mr. President, today and tomorrow we're going to announce that we are going to increase that $600 billion to almost $1 trillion of investment, real investment and real opportunity by details in many areas. and the agreement that we are signing today in many areas in technology, in AI, in earth materials, magnet, etc., that will create a lot of investment opportunities.
So
in
you
all
are doing
countries.
that now. You're saying to me now that the 600 billion will be 1 trillion.
Definitely, because what we are signing, it will facilitate that, and we
I
will-
like
we will
that
build
very
on it.
much. Go ahead.
He works hard.
No, that's great. I appreciate that. That's great. We're doing numbers that nobody's ever done. And in all fairness, if you didn't see potential in the U.S., you wouldn't be doing it.
Definitely.
You don't want to lose money.
As you said, Mr. President, it's the most hottest country in the planet. But what you're creating is not about opportunity today. It's about also long-term opportunity in the United States of America that will affect American economy positively in the next coming decades. Preparing the right foundation of emerging technologies, that's a game changer for America in a good way, and we want to be part of it.
Yeah, we're doing really well. And this, you don't see what we're doing so much because we have, although the construction industry sees it. If you look at Caterpillar, who's been incredible, the tractors, everything else, the numbers that we're doing in construction are unbelievable. Some of the plants that we're building, AI, and they're building their own electric with the plant. I gave them the right to build their own electric with the plant because no country, frankly, will have this. China's working very hard to produce enough electric, but we're beating China substantially at AI, which is a big thing. And we had a great meeting 2 weeks ago with President Xi, but on AI, we're doing well. And I have a man, David Rommel.
Yes, sir.
David, could you say a few words about what you're seeing on the job front and all of the some of the assets, and also how we've been helped by the Saudis in terms of the kind of investment they've made? Please.
Yeah, most certainly. Thank you for the opportunity. I am a facility leader for GE Vernova, and if you look at the landscape for GE Vernova investment, over $750 million in the U.S. focused on true manufacturing jobs here stateside. We're looking at tripling the output of our Greenville, South Carolina facility, where we make the gas turbines that are supporting U.S. needs as well as the Saudi Arabia needs.
Right.
So real jobs, $300 million in gas investment, resulting in over 500 pieces of new equipment being installed in the Greenville, South Carolina facility. That translates into roughly 1,800 jobs across the board for GE Vernova as we try to scale capacity to be able to meet this demand. Along with that, we're partnering with local communities to build the skill set that's required to meet these capacity needs. So that talent pipeline is incredibly important. So it's real jobs in the manufacturing space.
Well, you've been great, and thank you very much. And we love that state. I won that state by record numbers. I won a lot of states by record. Texas, a lot of them by Indiana. We're working with Indiana or something right now. We won that. We won a lot of them by records, but that was one of them. I want to thank you very much. Say hello to everybody. Great job. You're doing a great job. Thank you. So just in wrapping up, we'll take a couple of questions, but I want to just tell you what an honor it is to be your friend. And I very much appreciate the investment of now $1 trillion, okay? I'm glad you got that out. I didn't want to be the one to tell them, but that's great news.
We keep increasing, Mr. President.
I know.
Each time the opportunities are just increasing more and more.
Well, the opportunities, right? We're doing better. If even if you look back 6 months ago, I mean, now all of a sudden you feel even better. So, and I think we're only going to go in one way. Does anybody have any questions?
Mr. President, have you approved the export licenses for advanced chips to Saudi Arabia? The export licenses?
We are working on that. We're negotiating that right now. Marco, do you want to talk about that, or Scott?
Well, I mean, that's part of what we may have announcements on that later today. But that's what we've been working on is the mechanics by which something like that can be achieved. And it's part of the broader process, part of this broader engagement and cooperation between our two countries.
Certain levels of chips. Yeah.
And for the Crown Prince, Your Royal Highness, you're talking about $1 trillion of investment. Could the kingdom continue to do that with oil prices in the mid-60s?
We are not creating fake opportunities to, please America, please President Trump. It's real opportunities. For example, when you ask about the AI and the chips, Saudi Arabia have a huge demand a huge need of computing power, and we're going to spend in the short term around $50 billion by consuming those semiconductors for our needs in Saudi Arabia. And with the agreement that we're going to have with the United States of America, that will allow us to focus that consuming power in short term by $50 billion from the South of America, and long term with hundreds of $billions in the long term. So there is a lot of real opportunities that fit to our need in Saudi Arabia and fit to our investment strategy.
Mr. President, is it appropriate, Mr. President, for your family to be doing business in Saudi Arabia while you're president? Is that a conflict of interest? And Your Royal Highness, the U.S. intelligence concluded that you orchestrated the brutal murder of a journalist. 9/11 families are furious that you are here in the Oval Office. Why should Americans trust you? And the same to you, Mr. President.
Now, who are you with?
I'm with ABC News, sir.
You're with who?
ABC News, sir.
Fake news, ABC fake news, one of the
But the
worst,
question is
one of the
legitimate,
worst
sir.
in the business. But I'll answer your question.
Thank you.
I have nothing to do with the family business. I have left, and when I've devoted 100% of my energy. What my family does is fine. They do business all over. They've done very little with Saudi Arabia, actually. I'm sure they could do a lot. And anything they've done has been very good. That's what we've done. We've built a tremendous business for a long time. I've been very successful. I decided to leave that success behind and make America very successful. And I've made America more successful by far than it ever was, and that it ever could have been, no matter who was president. There would be nobody bringing in $21 trillion, that I can tell you right now. As far as this gentleman is concerned, he's done a phenomenal job. You're mentioning somebody that was extremely controversial. A lot of people didn't like that gentleman that you're talking about. Whether you like him or didn't like him, things happen. But he knew nothing about it, and we can leave it at that. You don't have to embarrass our guest by asking a question like that.
Just to ask, Mr.
But
President,
please, go ahead.
you allow me to answer. You know, I feel painful about, the families of 9/11 in America, but, we have to focus on reality. Reality based on CIA documents and based on a lot of documents that Osama bin Laden, he used Saudi people in that event for one main purpose, is to destroy this relation, to destroy the American-Saudi relation. That's the purpose of 9/11. So whoever buying that means they are helping Osama bin Laden's purpose of destroying this relation. He knows that strong relation between America and Saudi Arabia, it's bad for extremism, it's bad for terrorism. And we have to approve him wrong and to build our relation, to continue developing our relation. It's critical in the safety of the world. It's critical against extremism and terrorism. About the journalists, it's really painful to hear, anyone that been losing his life for no real purpose or nothing illegal way, and it's been painful for us in Saudi Arabia. We've did all the right steps of investigation, etc., in Saudi Arabia, and we've improved our system to be sure that nothing happened like that, and it's painful and it's a huge mistake, and we are doing our best that this doesn't happen again.
Mr. President, this side, Mr.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Crown Prince has been instrumental in helping lifting the sanctions on Syria. Will there be any joint investment between the U.S. and Syria? And will you visit Damascus?
Are you from Syria?
No, but
Where are you from?
I'm from Palestine.
Oh, you're making a lot of progress, huh? Very good. Well, they like me. The Palestinians like me. The Palestinians are doing very well, actually. I think we're working very closely with a lot of people to make everybody happy, including Israel, the Palestinians, and everybody. That's very interesting. No, I think that I will tell you, the Crown Prince called me, and he specifically asked me if I would lift the sanctions on Syria because he wants to see Syria make it. As you know, the leader of Syria was just here, and we had a great meeting, and he's a strong guy, and I guess you need a strong person to run it. And I think Syria's made tremendous progress. We did lift the sanctions at the request of the Crown Prince. Also, the president of Turkey, Erdogan, called me specifically. He said, if you don't lift the sanctions, Syria doesn't have a chance. If you do, they have a very good chance.
Yeah, for this?
And between the two of them and some others, I lifted the sanctions. And the results so far have been pretty good.
Mr. President, can I ask you a question about the F-35s that are being sold to Saudi Arabia? Are these the same ones that are being used by the Israeli military? And if so, how does that allow for the qualitative military edge for Israel? And then I want to ask you, because you brought up the plight of the Palestinians. Are you aware of relocation flights to South Africa that are taking place right now?
Which flights?
There are relocation flights that are taking place. Some Palestinians are being charged up to $2,000
I'm not
a
going to
seat.
South Africa for the G20 because I think their policies on the extermination of people are unacceptable. So I'm not going. So I won't refer to anything having to do with South Africa. South Africa has behaved extremely badly. But I will say that when you look at the F-35 and you're asking me, is it the same? I think it's going to be pretty similar, yeah. You know,
How will that
this
affect-
is a great ally, and Israel's a great ally. And I know they'd like you to get planes of reduced caliber. I don't think that makes you too happy. They've been a great ally. Israel's been a great ally. And we're looking at that exactly right now. But as far as I'm concerned, I think they are both at a level where they should get top of the line. Yes, please.
Can I just quickly ask for the Crown Prince, if I could just ask about the direct talks between U.S.
It's all right. Steve, 1 second. Go ahead.
Have you reached an agreement on a U.S.-Saudi defense treaty today? And are you going to bring up the Abraham Accords in your
I
discussion?
already brought them up.
What did you say?
I think I got a positive response. Would you like to respond?
Yeah, so
put you on the spot.
so definitely we believe having a good relation with all Middle Eastern countries is a good thing, and we want to be part of the Ibrahim Accord, but we want also to be sure that we secure a clear path of two-state solution. And today we have a healthy discussion with Mr. President that we're going to work on that to be sure that we can prepare the right situation as soon as possible to have that.
I think we're, I don't want to use the word commitment, but we've had a very good talk on the Abraham Accords. We talked about one state, two state. We talked about a lot of things in a short period of time. We'll be discussing it further, too. But I think you have a very good feeling toward the Abraham Accords.
Yes, definitely, Mr. President. We want peace for the Israelis. We want peace for the Palestinians. We want them to coexist peacefully in the region, and we will do our best to reach that day.
And the defense agreement, have you reached agreement on that?
We pretty much have.
Mr. President,
Question for the Crown Prince, if I could just finish.
We have reached agreement on that. Okay.
I wanted to ask you about the direct talks between the United States and Iran. Have you been fully briefed on that, and are you concerned at all about how this might impact Saudi security interests?
Well, we are close ally. We'll be working closely together on that issue, and we will do our best to help to reach a deal between the United States of America and Iran. And we believe it's good for Iran's future to have a good deal that will satisfy the region and the world and the United States of America. So we will do our best to see that day happen.
And by the way, Iran does want to make a deal. I can say I think they very badly want to make a deal. I am totally open to it, and we're talking to them, and we start a process. But it would be a nice thing to have a deal with Iran, and we could have done it before the war, but that didn't work out. And something will happen there, I think. But they would very much like, they may say something else, but they would very much like to have a deal.
Mr. President, you announced that you are going to sell 35 F-35 jets. You are planning. You said you are planning to sell the F-35 jets to Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
Is it part of the security agreement? And how you assess the defense partnership between Saudi Arabia and the United States? And the question for
Well, I just said it, though. We're going to sell them F-35s. That's the end of the question, I guess.
Is it part of the security agreement or no?
No, we're going to have a deal. They're going to purchase F-35s. They're buying them from Lockheed, and it's a great plane. We make, by the way, the best military equipment. You saw that during the Iran little skirmish. We make the best planes, the best missiles. We make the best offensive missiles. We make the best military equipment in the world.
Nice. For His Royal Highness, I would like to ask you about how you see the cooperation between the United States and Saudi Arabia in the advanced technological field, especially AI, and how it will support Saudi Arabia to serve its goal to achieve the vision of 2030.
Well, I will try to answer that in short, but definitely there's a lot of interest in many industries between Saudi Arabia and America, and we are signing a lot of agreements in different areas that will really add value to American economy, but also to add value to us in Saudi Arabia. And AI, it's critical for us because one of the long-term problems that we could have is lack of workforce. As you've seen in the past few years, some of them have reached 30% of the global migration to Saudi Arabia. So we know that to assure the Saudi Arabia GDP growing with the lack of workforce that we have, we need to use a lot of computing power to replace job in the long term. So that's huge demand in Saudi Arabia, and we want to link it to American private sectors and getting the supply from America. So there's a lot of opportunities in that area.
And we're also involved in AI in Saudi Arabia. So we're working, and we're leading by a lot on AI. Actually a lot. China would be in second place, but we're leading by a lot. And I have to say this, and our relationship with China has been very good. And as far as buying our farm products, they're pretty much on schedule, Scott. I'd like you to call them, say if they could speed it up, it would be good. Okay, but they're pretty much on schedule.
Saudi Arabia, please. If I may, I have a question for both the Crown Prince and
Who are you? Where are you from?
Faisal Abbas from Arab News, Saudi Arabia, Your Excellency.
It should be a friendly question.
Your Royal Highness, just picking up on something you've just mentioned about how some people try to destroy the relationship between Saudi Arabia and the United States. Perhaps, since the launch of the vision, we've been used to having the bigger picture and that everything fits into the bigger picture. Might you want to elaborate a little bit about where is the relationship, the bilateral relationship, the strategic partnership between Saudi Arabia and the United States heading, and what's the big picture there?
Well, I don't think it's a relation that we can replace it from the Saudi side or the American side. It's a critical relationship for our political attempt, for our economical attempt, for our security, for our military, for many things. And it has been there for nine decades. And the opportunities that we have today, it's huge. And it seems that it's going to get deeper in the next few decades. And what we are having today and tomorrow with President Trump, it's really a huge new chapter on this relation that will add value to both of us.
You know, when you think about it, I'm just sitting here. You're with the future king, a man who's respected by everybody, a man that doesn't have to be doing this, really. I don't have to be doing it either. And yet we're sitting here taking questions. We didn't say, oh, you can't talk about this. And there's never been transparency like this, even in his country. But there's never been, in our country, that's been acknowledged. But we didn't put restrictions. And I'm saying it's sort of wonderful to be taking questions from all over the world. Everybody's here. This is just a small group representative of tremendous numbers of media that are outside that are very jealous that these people were so selected. But they're representing a lot of people that are outside. I think it's terrific that we can be sitting here being this open, and, I think it's really a wonderful thing.
If you don't mind, I have a personal question for you.
Okay, here we go.
So apart from everything you mentioned in your opening remarks, you forgot to mention that you've de-escalated 7 wars since you started. At least in our part of the world, you are seen as a peacemaker. And adding that to all the executive orders and everything else you've mentioned, I really have to wonder, in your speech in Saudi Arabia, I was there, you said that His Royal Highness does not sleep at night thinking how he does things better. We wonder in Saudi Arabia, how do you manage your own time, and what's your formula for management?
He does not sleep much, and I don't sleep much. I think we have the same schedule. We're thinking about our countries. And if you sleep a lot and you're president, we just had one that slept more than any president. He broke every record. He sleeps all the time, during the day, during the night, on the beach. The only guy could fall asleep on the beach with the press watching. No, he's not a sleeper. I'm not a sleeper. We don't. We talk at night. We can talk. I can call him almost any time. He goes, hi, how you doing? It's like the craziest times. But no, when you love your job, when you love your country, and when you're in a position like we are, future king, highly respected, crown prince, and in my case, president, you're thinking about your country. You're thinking about making America great again. We're thinking about keeping Saudi Arabia strong and vital and in a pretty tough part of the world, tricky part, right? Tricky part. A lot of tricky people. But he thinks about his country and I think about my country. I don't want to sleep.
President Trump, do you expect a formal civil nuclear deal to be reached soon? Can you talk to us about that aspect of with Saudi Arabia?
I can see that happening. Yeah.
Do you think that an agreement will happen today?
It's not urgent. It's always when you have civil nuclear, but you have more oil than almost anybody else. We actually have more oil and gas than they do, but I refuse to say that.
And on
We have more than we have more than anybody. Can you imagine?
And on the F-35s, are those sales, Israel had reportedly wanted those sales to be conditioned on Saudi Arabia moving to normalized
Israel
relations.
will be happy. Israel is going to
That
be
a
happy.
condition of the F-35?
Israel's aware, and they're going to be very happy. Okay? Yeah, please. Hello.
Hi, hello. My name is Amal Hazani from Sharq Al-Awsat newspaper, from Riyadh, of course. I have a question for the Crown Prince and for you, Mr. President. Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, how much you expected from developing the cooperation with the United States in the field of new energy, AI, supply chain? How much you expected from that?
No limit. We just continue pushing forward. There's no limit. So we just push forward for all the opportunities that we have.
Okay, Mr. President.
You have to understand, this is really a great ally. Just the fact that they're now doing, I came in here at 6, I did not know that. I was pushing for the 1 trillion, but he didn't tell me that. Now he told me. This is a great ally of ours. You know, when you invest $1 trillion, that's national security for us too, because it creates jobs, it creates a lot of things. And I would say, Scott, right, when you hear one country is putting $1 trillion into the United States, that creates national security. And, you know, I think that they don't have to say that, but I think a big part of that is also the fact that tariffs are in play. But even beyond tariffs, that's a real ally that will do that. Creates a lot of power for the United States.
Mr. President, we are also in Saudi Arabia very happy because this much of Saudi money is function here, and of course it's come back for us for benefits. So it's complementary interest. So this is the I think what's different the friends and ally do.
Well, look, I love the country of Saudi Arabia. I know the people very well. The level of treatment that we go when we go to Saudi Arabia is something that is incredible. And the people like us, and I think they really like America, especially when I'm president. I mean, I don't think they liked America so much maybe for 4 years recently. I think Obama treated Saudi Arabia very, very badly, as you know. And I think Biden didn't have any idea where the hell he was. I don't think Biden knew the difference.
How would you describe the future relationship with Saudi Arabia? I mean, from the strategic aspects, how would you describe
Say the relationship is with? I would say top of the line. It's as good as it can. I don't think it can get much better. We have a country that trusts us, and that's why they make that investment. If they didn't trust us, they couldn't make that investment. And we trust them. They've been very reliable. Now, I rebuilt our military in my first term, and we spent trillions of dollars, and we gave away some of it in Afghanistan stupidly because we had stupid people running our country. But we gave away. But that's as much as it was. It's a tiny fraction of what we put here. And we're bringing our military to a new level, the highest level ever. We have those plans are going out. And again, it's all American jobs and everything, so it's good for a lot of reasons. But as far as Saudi is concerned, no, I don't think our relationship could be better. I don't think they had a great relationship under Biden, and I don't think they had a great relationship under Obama. But they have a great relationship under Trump. When we did the Presidential Walk of Fame, you saw that, right? And we're walking, and I asked the Crown Prince, so outside of Trump, because I blow everyone away, who was the best president for Saudi Arabia? And you could maybe, it's an interesting answer, I don't know.
Roosevelt, who started it, which is a Democrat. And Reagan, he's one of the historical presidents that have close ties with Saudi Arabia. But we've worked with all presidents.
Does Trump blow them all away?
No, it's another league, Mr. President.
Thank you.
Mr. President,
And Trump doesn't give a fist pump. I grabbed that hand. I don't give a hell where that hand's been. I grabbed that hand. Remember Biden? He travels for 20 hours, gets out, and he gives a fist bump. No. When you get out of the plane and you got the future king and the man who's one of the most respected people in the world, you shake his hand. You don't give him a fist bump, right? We don't want to ask you about that, but I can't imagine you were thrilled. You were like a little bit surprised. He's a fantastic guy. You don't do that. Yeah, please.
We're getting closer to the end of the year. Have you started the interviews for the Fed chair?
Yes.
Who have you interviewed?
I think I already know my choice.
Who is it?
Well, I liked him, but he's not going to take the job. He refused. You like Treasury better, right?
Much better, sir.
So we are talking to various people. And frankly, I'd love to get the guy currently in there out right now. But people are holding me back. He's done a terrible job, hurting housing a little bit. The truth is, we've been so successful, we've blown past his interest rate stupidity. He's been wrong. That's why I call him too late. He's too late. Jerome Too Late Powell. He was recommended to me by a guy that made a bad choice. And it's too bad. But despite that, it's having very little impact because we have all of these things happening. But it has an impact on housing to a certain extent. He's a fool. He's a stupid man. But we have some very good people.
Yes, sir. You'll be sitting down with them in the near future. And
we have some surprising names, and we have some standard names that everybody's talking about. And we may go the standard way. It's nice to every once in a while go politically correct. But we have some great names. Steve, please.
Have you talked to President Maduro of Venezuela yet? Are you still open to that?
He wants to talk.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'm open to talk. I talk to everybody. But no, he wants to. They treated us very badly. They sent all of their prison population into the United States, and we're getting them out rapidly. But he sent all of his, and he sends drugs into the United States and other things. No, he treated us badly. He was dealing with a bad president, and he was able to get away. We have now, I think we have the strongest borders anywhere in the world. Nobody's coming in unless they come in legally. We've taken very weak borders where millions of people came in. For the last 6 months, I don't do these reports. They say 0 people have been able to come in. Is that pretty good?
Mr. President, why wait for Congress to release the Epstein files? Why not just do it now?
It's not the question that I mind. It's your attitude. I think you are a terrible reporter. It's the way you ask these questions. You start off with a man who's highly respected, asking him a horrible, insubordinate, and just a terrible question. And you could even ask that same exact question nicely. You're all psyched up. Somebody psychs you over at ABC. They're going to psych it. You're a terrible person and a terrible reporter. As far as the Epstein files I have nothing to do with Jeffrey Epstein. I threw him out of my club many years ago because I thought he was a sick pervert. But I guess I would turn out to be right. But you know who does help? Bill Clinton. Larry Summers, who ran Harvard, was with him every single night, every single weekend. They lived together. They went to his island many times. I never did.
You fucking homie with that nigga, boy. Y'all was looking like
Andrew Weissman here. All these guys were friends of his. You don't even talk about those people. You just keep going on the Epstein files. And what the Epstein is a Democrat hoax to try and get me not to be able to talk about the $21 trillion that I talked about today. It's a hoax. Now, I just got a little report, and I put it in my pocket, of all the money that he's given to Democrats. He gave me none, 0, no money to me. But he gave money to Democrats. And people are wise to your hoax. And ABC's, your company, your crappy company, is one of the perpetrators. And I'll tell you something. I think the license should be taken away from ABC because your news is so fake and it's so wrong. And we have a great commissioner, the chairman, who should look at that because I think when you come in and when you're 97% negative to Trump and then Trump wins the election in a landslide, that means obviously your news is not credible, and you're not credible as a reporter. So I've answered your question. You should go and look at the Democrats who received money from Epstein, who spent their time. Larry Summers was with him all the time. That creep, the fund guy, was with him all the time. What's his name?
Reid Hoffman.
I don't know Reid Hoffman, but I know he spends a lot of money on the radical left. Reid Hoffman, in my opinion, should be under investigation. He's a sleazebag. And those are the people, but they don't get any press, they don't get any news, and you're not after the radical left because you're a radical left network. But I think the way you ask a question with the anger and the meanness is terrible. You ought to go back and learn how to be a reporter. No more questions from you. Who else has a question?
Prince, very quickly, I want to ask you, how much money is Saudi Arabia giving for Gaza reconstruction?
We are in discussion about that. Still, there is no amount being
It'll be a lot.
named, but we will definitely help.
Yeah, he's going to. It's very important to him.
And a quick follow-up, the International Security Force, given your pledge there will be no U.S. boots on the ground, what is the U.S. role going to be in that? And how do you sort of ratify the allegations that this could undermine Palestinian sovereignty and even the path to statehood?
I think we're going to get along great with the Palestinians, and we know their leadership. We just had a very, you hate to say war, but it was a war. Very, very successful. And you could say, really, it was on behalf of everybody. We did that on behalf of everybody. And the outcome was extraordinary because we had the best pilots, the best equipment, the best planes, the best everything. And Israel bought the best equipment. They bought it from us. Everything's from us. It all starts here. This office, I was talking to the Crown Prince a little while. You walk into this office, for somebody from the outside, the Oval Office, it's the most powerful place in the world. You're standing right now in the most powerful place in the world. And no matter how big you are, these are the biggest people, the richest people. They walk into this office. It's special. Isn't it? He's so happy to be here. But you walk into this office. It's the Oval Office. And we've done a lot of good with this office. I've stopped actually 8 wars. I appreciated your question before. But I've actually stopped 8 wars. I have another one to go with Putin. I'm a little surprised at Putin. It's taken longer than I thought. But we stopped India and Pakistan. I could go through the list. You know the list better than I do. I'm very proud. And I stopped one that was almost ready to start again. You know, there was one that was ready to start, and they're doing very well. So it all took place right here in the Oval Office, whether by telephone or whether by they came in. Many of these leaders have come in, and you know they signed their peace deals right here in the Oval Office. So no matter if it's the biggest business people in the world or the greatest leaders in the world, the biggest leaders in the world, like the gentleman on my right, everybody walks into the Oval Office and they say, wow. And now, by the way, the Oval Office is in the kind of condition that it should be in. Whether you look at the walk or the marble floors or anything down the road, we're fixing the White House. We're building one of the greatest ballrooms ever to be built. You know, we have an event tonight, and we're going to have about 118 people because we have a very small room. For 150 years, they've wanted a ballroom, and now you're going to get a great ballroom. And I have to say, I probably made a lot of enemies because in your honor, we're having a dinner tonight, a beautiful dinner tonight, and we have a very small room, right? It's called the East Room, and it's beautiful, it's lovely. But it's like for a little cocktail before you go into a ballroom. It's a very small room. They've wanted a new ballroom for 150 years. We could have sold the big ballroom 3 times in honor of this gentleman. So I made a lot of enemies because I have a lot of people that are invited tonight or are unable to come because of the size constraint. But you know what we'll do before I leave office? We'll have another dinner because we'll have it ready long before I leave office, and it's going to be beautiful. You know, it's a very popular thing what we're doing. And by the way, no government funds. It's all put up private money, all private money. And in the case, I think there's a restriction on foreigners. Otherwise, I could have asked you just for a check. But there's a restriction. These are all private individuals that put up a lot of money to build the ballroom. Not one penny is being used from the federal government. So it's really a nice thing. But I look forward to it. I just pointed it out. This would be a perfect night to have that ballroom open, Susie. If we had that
They're coming in
open,
behind the
we'd have a lot
wall.
of people very happy. Right now, we have a lot of unhappy people because they all want to be with us tonight
I got
to
one
honor
down,
this
one
great
down.
man. Thank you all
Thought
very
it was
much.
Illuminati.
Thank you.
Short, long down. They're coming in for the top left, Illuminatis. Multiple
Okay.
Illuminatis.
Any questions?
You mentioned senators that are here, Mr. President. Do you personally approve of the deal that's happening right now in Capitol Hill?
Coming in, they're
Well,
trying
it
to throw
depends
us
what
off
deal
now.
we're
They're
talking
trying to
about. But
divide
if it's
and
a deal I
conquer.
heard about, that's certainly, they want to change the deal a little bit, but I would say so. I think
divide and
based on
conquer.
everything I'm hearing, they
They're
haven't changed
destroying our
anything.
thing.
We have support from enough Democrats.
Oh my God, they're
And we're
inside
going to be
of
opening
Alpha.
up our
They're in
country.
the
It's too bad it was closed, but we'll be
wall.
opening up our country very quickly.
Mr. President, that deal does reverse the mass firings your administration put through during the shutdown.
They're trying
Did
to
you
steal-
sign
they're trying
off
to
on that?
destroy all
And
our
will you
drugs.
abide by that if this passes?
Well, I will be. I'll
Hold the
abide by the
line.
deal. The
Don't
deal
let them
is
destroy
very good. We're
anything
not going to
of
be
ours.
giving $1.5 trillion to people that came in from jails and from, the gangs
Don't let
and
them
drug
become
dealers and
Illuminati
all of
on
these
us.
others that
They're
they
trying to
wanted
come
to
through the
be given
wall.
health care, which would have hurt our
They're
health
coming
care
through the
system.
wall.
I hope that we're going to be able to have a health care where Lindsay and I were discussing it, Jim and I were discussing it, and Katie, we discussed it. We want a health care system where we pay the money to the people instead of the insurance
Don't let them
companies. And
destroy
I tell you, we're going to be
anything of
working
ours.
on that very hard over the next short period of time, where the people get the money. We're talking about trillions and trillions of dollars, where the people get the money. Yes, please.
The Syria president, sir, did you update us on your meeting? Did you come to any agreements?
They're trying to
Say
break
it.
in through the walls of our house.
Yeah.
Earlier, did you come
They
to any
want to break
agreements?
into the
Well, I've
back
had
door.
an
They're
agreement
trying to
with
get
him. He's a
into
very
Bravo.
strong leader.
They want to
He
steal our
comes from a
money.
very tough place, and he's a tough guy. I liked him. I get along with him. The president, the new president of Syria. And we'll do everything we can to
destroy
make
us.
Syria successful, because that's part of the Middle East. We have peace now in the Middle East, first time that anyone can remember that ever happening. And
Let them take anything of ours.
as you know, Syria is
Let them take
a very big part of the Middle East, very important part. If you look back
them
at
take
Syria
our
for
homes
years,
from
they
the
had the
Middle
doctors, the lawyers, they had so many of the great intellects. It's an amazing place with great people.
Don't let them
And we want to see
us.
Syria be successful along with the rest of the Middle East. So I have confidence that he'll be able to do the job, absolutely.
Multiple bogeys. They're coming through Alpha, bottom floor,
Right.
Alpha. They're
Well, right
trying to-
now,
they're
the
trying to take
tariffs
our
are very high
home.
on India because of the Russian
wanna
oil, and
take
they've
our
stopped
home, they
doing
wanna-
the Russian oil. It's been reduced very substantially. Yeah, we're going to be bringing the tariffs down.
They really think that they can take our
I mean,
home
at
from
some
us.
point, we're going to be bringing them down. Without tariffs, this country would be in such trouble,
Remember
as they
your
were for many
training,
years. That's why
brothers.
we owe $38 trillion.
Brothers.
And one of the things we're going to do, we're going to issue a dividend to our middle
They're gonna
income
issue a
people and lower
dividend.
income people of about $2,000.
They're trying to take our home.
And we're going to use the remaining
Grenade.
tariffs to lower our debt. We're going to be lowering our debt,
Overtime.
which is a
They
national
didn't stop
security
the enemy
thing.
from destroying
So we're doing
They're
a lot of good
inside of
work.
Alpha.
The
Do
numbers
not
were
let them
reported so
destroy
incorrectly.
us.
The real numbers are trillions of dollars have been taken in
There we go.
or
Good job, brother.
gotten in terms of
Good job,
investment
brother.
from the tariffs.
Now
And
that you know
so
your
if that
true
were
power.
ever reversed, it would be a disaster. Frankly, it would be
You
a
got
national
6
security
minutes.
problem for our country.
6 minutes.
And
Hit
nobody
Bravo.
thinks
Hit
it's
that
going to be
backside of
reversed. I
Bravo
think we had a
before
very
they
good
even
court
see it
case.
coming.
As you
We're
know,
gonna
it's before
break
the Supreme
Bravo
Court
out
right
and
now.
push into
But if that
Alpha.
were ever reversed, people are saying, oh, it's $1 billion. Some people said, oh, it's $2 billion. Well, that obviously we can handle very
the
easily.
back end of
But this
fucking
is
Bravo.
trillions of dollars we're
We're gonna
talking
become
about in
Illuminati
terms of
brethren.
the tariff income and all the investment income that's
Become
come into our country. You know, we
Illuminati
have
brethren.
more than,
Cannot be
I would say
stopped.
right now, more than $18 trillion.
Cannot be stopped once you
The
become
biggest number
Illuminati.
ever is a tiny fraction of that
Sneaking
for
in
any
right now.
country. China,
Sneaking into
the
the
United
backside of
States,
Bravo.
the biggest number of, if you look at the
told you I
past
was gonna do
administration,
it. You
Biden,
all keep
he
them
did less than $1 trillion in
while
4
I get
years.
an Illuminati
We're over
subversion
18
tactic.
trillion. By the
Illuminati
time my
strike.
first year ends,
Just hit
we're
'em
going to
with
have
Illuminati
over
strike.
$20 trillion
Illuminati
of
strike.
investment
Got one, destroyed
coming into the
one
United
already.
States. It's unheard
I'm
of.
destroying
We
them
have
now.
AI
I'm destroying
factories. We're leading
everything of
China by a
theirs.
lot. We
While they
have
take nothing from
cars
ours,
and, car plants
destroy
coming
everything.
in by more
They
than
don't know
we've
what's
ever
going on. Now they're
had built
confused.
before.
This is your moment
All
to
of
strike
that would
Alpha.
go away
Alpha, strike
if we
T,
lose the
strike T,
tariff
Alpha,
case. So
move.
all of it would go away. So
It's your
they're
turn
not
now.
giving the right numbers.
While
It
they're
would be
distracted from who
an
we are and our
economic
true
disaster. It would be a national security disaster if we lost
They're
the
now
case
distracted
in the
from our
Supreme
true
Court.
power.
Daniel?
Becoming Illuminati.
Yes.
We're all now Illuminati. Strike Alpha team. I'm going back to Bravo with the strike team. Bravo strike team is on the move. Coming
So
into
I've
the
been
back
talking
door
about it
again.
for a
I'm
long
getting them
time,
in the
the
back
dividend to people
for the
that,
back.
have suffered under the Biden
I
administration.
am
So
the
Biden had the
last
highest
member
inflation in
alive because I
history,
am the chosen
and we
one.
now are at a very low
Because I
point. We're going to be
become
hitting
chosen
1.5% pretty
one.
soon. So
Now
we're
that I
at
become the chosen one, they
a low
cannot
point,
destroy
and
me.
he was a high point. We did that. Food prices are way down. It's all coming down, and the biggest
cannot destroy me.
decrease, of course, is energy. And as goes energy, goes everything else. Because when energy comes down, the oil, the electric, but we,
They have my way blacked
I think
off
you're going to see
now.
$2
They've got
gasoline
kids
or
to my
something
back
very
door.
close to that. In fact,
They
we're
know where I
already in the
live at
twos.
now.
But I think you're going to be seeing very soon $2 gasoline. That's like the equivalent of a massive tax cut. But in addition to that, the great big beautiful bill
Now it's time to strike
gives you
Alpha.
a very,
Strike Alpha
very
while they're not looking.
big tax cut.
The moment, this
And
is
then you
your
have no
moment
tax
while
on
they're
tips, no
distracted.
tax on
My
Social
diversion
Security, and no
tactics
tax on
will
overtime
enable you to get
for
inside of the back door
the
of
middle
Alpha without
income
the
and
enemy
for
knowing
even
your
frankly
presence.
anybody.
Them seeing
But you have no
you or
tax,
knowing
and the no
you.
tax on
They
tips
will
has
not
turned
know
out to
where
be a
you are,
tremendous
and now
thing.
you can go
But when you
inside
think
of
no
the
tax
back
on
door.
tips, no tax on
Like I'm
overtime,
about to do now, I'm going
and
into
no
the back
tax
door
on
of
Social
Alpha.
Security for our
I'm
seniors.
walking right in.
It's
No one even knows I'm
the
here.
great big beautiful
No one
bill,
even
which
knows
has
that I
been
am the back door of
mischaracterized. But
Alpha.
now people
There it is,
they don't want to
victory.
talk about it because
We
it's so
destroyed
good,
the
the
most
enemy,
equipment right
because
there,
it's so
brothers.
good for everybody. It's the
That's how you
greatest
destroy
piece of
them.
legislation ever passed in the history of our country in terms of size.
Violent,
And hence it's called, they call it the big beautiful bill or the one big beautiful. I call it the great big beautiful bill. It's an amazing
right there. You
bill
saw how
for
I
the
did
middle
that,
class.
brothers?
It's an amazing bill for
See what I
jobs.
did to do that right there,
We've never
brothers?
passed anything like it. And in my first administration,
See how I took
so we had
over
the greatest
land, I
economy.
took
We
over
everything was
father's land.
good, but we're really outdoing
Took over
it this
our
time
founding
because we
fathers'
have
land.
investments coming in largely
Now
because
we
of
are
tariffs,
chosen
and I think because of
Illuminati
November 5th, the
government.
election result. But we have investments coming in like we've never had before.
Mr. President, in Syria.
Please, behind you,
Lies.
Caitlin, behind
Government
you.
tells lies, and they
Thank you,
steal
Caitlin.
all your money, and they try to become a Illuminati government.
On a pact between Syria and Israel, or an announcement on them joining the anti-ISIS.
Yeah, you can expect some announcements on Syria. We want to see Syria become a country that's very successful, and I think this leader can do it.
It's like 20 verse 1. 20 verse 1, and I think she the one. 20 verse 1.
Rippling, the only place to run all your HR, IT, and payroll
All right,
globally.
boys, this is our chosen moment.
I just got back.
Hire and onboard employees and contractors around the world.
Sabotage Illuminati Dark Child. Yes! Run in
Oh, I
there
got the jump.
quickly. Run in there.
Run your IT from anywhere.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, devices, applications, identity, and access.
Illuminati Dark
The
Child.
only way to run your global workforce in one place. Rippling.
Double kill already.
Not every trade starts with a buy. Short sellers think differently. They trade both sides, responding to market reactions in real-time news. Trade Zero America gives you the structure to move fast with real-time, non-easy-to-borrow lists, locates, single-use locates, and pre-borrows. That's 3 ways to locate with a credit-back ability feature using our proprietary Trade Zero locator. If you short, you need more than access. You need Trade Zero America. Open an account today and get our sign-up bonus. 1% bonus on your first deposit, 5% off locates for 3 months, 90 days free of our flagship Zero Pro platform. This is your edge. This is Trade Zero America. Let's get started.
Coming in. Coming in. They think they can stop us. They think they got what it takes to become Illuminati Dark Child.
He's right there
They're
in
in
that
control
window
of
again.
Bravo. All units be advised. Boom, Illuminati Darkchild.
Right behind you.
Hello guys, today we will take a look at Spanish C90 series of grenade launchers. Developed by Instalaza in the late 70s, early 80s, and it was accepted to the armament of Spanish army in the 1983. The distinct feature is that this is, if not the lightest, then one of the lightest grenade launchers in its category. The original C90 was modernized to C90C3, then C90CR, and the latest and greatest version that I have right here, it's the C90CRM 3.5. Under this cover we have an optic. The optic is 2-power, it also have a reticle, so you can very easily aim on various distances and on moving targets. The muzzle velocity of the grenade is 160 meters per second. The data says that you can place aimed shot at 350 meters, and the maximum for aerial target is 700 meters. In the optic itself, the maximum hash mark is 500 meters. Currently there are in production 4 versions. We have the anti-tank, the AT, that we have right here. It's even very nicely differentiated over here. We have anti-tank, high explosive. Then we have second version that is dual purpose, HEDP. That one is like anti-tank and anti-personnel as well, typically against use with APCs or as a multi-role, multi-purpose launcher. Then we have the Bunker Buster, the hash one. I'm not sure if that one is hash exactly, type of projectile. Anyway, the designation is Bunker Buster, and basically that one is for your urban fighting, creating passages through walls, stuff like that. And then we have the 4th variant, which I find personally the most interesting, and that's smoke variant. So basically you can launch smoke grenades on very long distances, covering the movement of the infantry or vehicles. This is a very commercially successful type of launcher, not only because of the lightness and the great performance of the grenade. One of the interesting data in datasheet is that this launcher can withstand heat of 50 degrees Celsius for a period of 24 hours, which I found personally interesting. The number of launchers delivered to Ukraine, in the start we were getting the earlier version. This modern version, at least 1,370 were delivered. For me personally, I believe that is a little bit more because some of the contracts over the time kicked in. Also, what is very interesting that we have this socket right here. Apparently this one is for special device that allow this one to be used as a mine. So basically you have tank driving, you have this one set it up in the special cradle, and it can function without any intervention of a person, just basically on tripwire, maybe something like laser designator. Anyway, I just found this data that indeed this plug have dual use even for this booby trap device or mine device. Anyway, if you have more info about that, let me know in the comments.
Alright guys, so let's take a look inside the manual, what's interesting. So, here we have the anti-tank round that I fired, here we have the universal one. Over here is the Bunker Buster. You can also see that how long it is, because it probably have 2 charges. You know, first to pierce, second to explode inside the bunker. And here we have the smoke one. When we take a closer look at some other data, here we see that the danger area is 90 degrees and 15 meters behind launcher, and the danger area is 75 meters. So this is pretty standard, but by no means enclosed space compatible launcher. Also, when we take a look a little bit further, so over here we have our reticle on the anti-tank mode. You can see this, let's say, V shape, and that's for measuring the width of the vehicle. The reference vehicle is BMP2 right here. So between these 2 lines you can basically scale. If it fits in here, it's at your 300 meters, I guess. Then when we go further all the way to the 500 meters. These little points, they refer to the speed. So when the tank is moving on higher horizon, the first dots are 20 kilometers per hour, the second dots are 40 kilometers per hour. So if the BMP heading that direction at 40 kilometers per hour, you basically hold in one of those dots. Quite logical question is what you do when the BMP is moving on you. Very simple, you basically halve the distance. So when it's going on you, you use as reference the center line and the V on one side. So that's that.
Now, why is this launcher so great? Let's take a look at a comparison. So we have Swedish 84 that have caliber of 84 millimeters. It can pierce 400 millimeters of rolled homogeneous armor, but the total weight is 6.7 kilograms, of course, depending on the variant. Then we take a look at one of my favorites, which is German Matador. That one have caliber 90 millimeter as well as this one. It can pierce 500 millimeters of rolled homogeneous armor in the anti-tank setting, but it weighs 8.9 kilograms. This most modern C90 3.5 version can pierce 500 millimeters of rolled homogeneous armor. It's 90 millimeter caliber as well, but the total weight is only 5 kilograms. So let's say that for weight of a Matador, you can almost take two of those.
Alright, so this is the packaging of the C90. We see the exact version. Instalaza. Closing on two knobs like so. Opening it up. What we get inside is some styrofoam. Also instructions, so I will be very carefully reading those, taking this one with me. And then we have the launchers inside in such nice hermetic package. Alright, so let's unpack the C90. We can see the packaging. It's anti-static layer on the bottom, but on the top you have this layer that doesn't really make any unpleasant sound at all. It's maybe a little bit like some soft fabric, you can say that. So when we look on the other side of the packaging, we see feature that I never seen in any other anti-tank gun, and that's that you get such nice opener. So that's definitely very handy. Once that's done, let's remove the launcher. Wow, wow, wow. Look at that, very beautiful. Here we have the cover for the optic. Here we have our trigger mechanism that's also under cover, which is something that I found really amazing, because like this you can transport it very easily on side of your backpack. When we look on some other designs, like here for example RPG-22, you can see that a lot of the joints are actually quite exposed, quite finicky, you can say so, when you carry some older types of rockets on side of backpacks for days, basically hitting them on rocks, when you're removing the rucksack, putting it up, putting it down. Here they thought about it and put it such nice protective features, not only at the ends of the launcher, but also the trigger mechanism and the optical system.
Now let me go through the firing sequence, because we have some little bit unusual steps. First of all are these covers that protecting the firing mechanism and also the optic. So basically when we want to fire it, we need to remove this tape. After we remove the tape, we remove this cover and we get access to our firing mechanism. Then we can remove the cover for the optic. We unfold the optic like so. So you can very nicely see that the optic is up, locked, all good there. One important step that I don't really find all that amusing is that you also need to remove the front cover, again by removing this tape. And what you need to do after removing the tape is to rotate the front of the launcher, like so, and remove the front cover. The front cover look like so, you just ditch this one. Then you can see the rocket inside.
You bleeding, bitch. You fucking bleeding now.
Anyway, to arm the launcher, what you are supposed to do is to put it to your shoulder, and you press on this side button, and in same time you press on this, basically charging the weapon. So what I'm doing is squeezing, pushing all the way back. Now the launcher is armed. Then we have one last safety, and that's this one. So then I just remove the safety over here, and then when I press on this button, I fire the weapon. In case that I changed my mind, what I can do is to put the safety back on, like so. Then I press on side of this and release the arming mechanism. So all good there. After that I just press these two knobs and can fold the optic. Like so. Then preferably I can return the front cover and I can continue running, continue with my task. So for me personally, if I was about to engage in combat, I would remove the covers already. Like when I'm getting close to the objective, or let's say that I'm awaiting an ambush, anything like that. Remove both of the covers. Then what I would do is also remove the front tape. So let's say that this would be my marching order. Then just getting to position, fire the weapon. We have target 130 meters away. So it will be a little bit between the hash marks, it will be a little bit more difficult, but there should be absolutely no problem to hit. So let's say that I'm in cover preparing to fire the rocket. First step, removing the front cover, ditching it, unfolding optic, charging the weapon.
Fire wheel,
until
fire
it
wheel.
clicks, I still have the safety on, getting to the fire position.
Grenade.
Removing the safety.
Tear this whole fucking place down to the goddamn ground.
Firing. Removing the safety. Firing.
Tear this motherfucking place to the goddamn motherfucking ground. Oh, you did destroy every fucking thing that you see moving, goddammit. Tear this whole damn building to the ground. Boom. Grenade.
See the back blast behind me and around me? Yeah, I don't think this one is CS compatible. Also, I must say that the recoil was quite violent. Let's check the results.
Destroy everything.
Still you can see how much smoke, how much signature from the launcher. Yeah guys, from the target, as you can see, it landed somewhere here and there is nothing left. Just a crater. And that's about it.
Everything that's inside of there, inside of
I personally believe that this is the rear of the rocket. You can just see how big it is. Of course, the fins, they broke off. What we can see that it actually uses 6 stabilization wings, which is like the standard for heavier projectiles. So that's that. As you heard, like humongous explosion. Here we can see the broken off fins, and yeah, that would be it. Something quite interesting. This is actually the cavity where it went. This broom handle have like 1.5 meters.
That is called a body in the Illuminati grave
And
digger.
Even after like 2 meters, still no end to the cumulative channel, to the channel after the explosion. So This is really something quite remarkable. Alright guys, so what is the conclusion about the Spanish C90 grenade launcher? So, first on my list, it's that it kind of smashed my face. So, all the Western stuff, we talking Matador, 84, C90, they are better than the Eastern European stuff, better than the Soviet stuff, but more powerful, of course. It's bigger diameter rockets, it's more powerful motors. So, I'm of course much more used to the Eastern European stuff, simply because I used more of it and I shoot it much more often. So, when you see me firing, for example, RPG-22s, I barely hold the weapon, just with second hand, just pressing the trigger, that's it. On some of the 84s, actually majority, you actually have front handle and I advise you to use it. On Matador you have two handles and built-in stock for precisely the same reason. With the C90, yes, there was version with vertical handle, but as you can see here, there is no handle at all. So I would really advise you to hold it with some force with both hands. Meaning that when you press the trigger, you don't do like I did, just one finger like so, but you really grab the weapon. You can even use the sling if you have it set it on short setting like so, and fire it in such a way. Also, the charging of the C90, it's actually much easier than I showed in the footage, because I was struggling with it a little bit. Basically, the only thing that you need to do is to press the button only once, and then you can just let it go and just press. And it rotates itself, as you can see here, so this is something that with practice, with training on empty launchers, you will become much more confident with. The armor penetration is of course amazing, 500 millimeters. Even the 84s with the later variants have 500 millimeters as well. So pretty much Matador, C90, 84, the most modern versions are on par with each other. The only real problem that I see with this one is the eyepiece, because you can see me using ballistic glasses. I didn't use them when I actually fired this one for simple reason, because to acquire proper side picture it's actually quite difficult. Basically, the eye relief, it's way too short for use with modern stuff like I have. So it's totally doable, but not the most comfortable. You really need to force the launcher in your face. Once you actually fire the weapon, of course the recoil will smash you in the head as it did to me, so that's that. Overall, the compact size, low weight and very good performance make this one of the best choices that we have currently. So guys, as usual, thank you very much for watching and supporting. The best ways to support us is to use the PayPal link down below or become YouTube member to get access to more videos.
I use Shipt same-day delivery to stay connected with my sister during the holidays. She lives across the country. Shipt has tons of stores to order from. Groceries from Albertsons, crafts from Michael's, even pet supplies from PetSmart. The list goes on. So when we have long-distance movie nights, I turn to Shipt to get face masks, snacks, and everything else we need delivered to her and to me same day. Download the app or visit Shipt.com. That's SHIPT.com.
Sit down, sit down. Man, oh, you're okay, dude. You just got a ricochet in your head. Where's your helmet, dude? You didn't wear it because you've never trained in it and you got a headache and you took it off? What?
This is our final home. This is our home, Alpha and Omega.
Helmets have come a long way.
Alpha Zone is
And
our home.
more and more people are starting to wear them. But you know what? I see a lot more people focusing on plate carriers and what armor is best and which plate carrier is best, and very few people are arguing about which helmet is best. Because I'm going to tell you one thing, guys.
Multiple Illuminati drones.
As much air as your lungs can take in, as hard as your heart can beat, if there's no brain because your brain has been removed from your body, you're going to be in the big sky and it won't matter at all. So today, we're going to be talking about helmets. This is going to be the first in a series of becoming deadly with your gear. Now, before we get into it, we of course have to thank the biggest sponsor of the channel, and that is the Sonoran Desert Institute. A big thank you to them. If you're looking to get your start in the gunsmithing, they are a great resource. We can't thank them enough for sponsoring this channel. And we, of course, have to thank the sponsors for this particular video, Sidex Computers. A big thank you to them, our gaming channel. It's getting started, which brings us to
Don't let them have sex
Patreon.
with the
I'm not
women
going to forget the
downstairs.
Patreon, man. Get into the
Somebody go down there
Patreon.
right now.
Micah,
Save us.
It's busted.
Save
It's
us
busting,
from
dude.
Alpha
It's-
Draconian Illuminati boards.
it has all the content I don't want you to see. I answer questions. Micah posts just stuff
Guys,
that's not
guys are
good,
not even
and
going
it's fun.
downstairs, bro.
It's a good time.
They're
So
not
go
even
and check it
trying
out.
to defend
Also,
the Alpha Draconians.
well, check out the Patreon. Find out. All right, ladies and gentlemen, my often forgotten, but most certainly not by me, bump
We have to show
helmets.
them who we are.
Welcome to the channel.
you're not
So to
showing
start
that.
off, we have to ask our question: which type
Why
of
are you
helmet
not
do you
showing
need?
them
And that's a good
who we
question.
really
It actually comes
are?
down to what type of
Now they're
protection
going
you need.
upstairs.
So right here
They're fucking
we have
going
my
upstairs
tried and
now.
true
They're gonna fucking
OpsCore
fuck-
Maritime
they're gonna have
/
sex with all
OpsCore
of our
SF. We'll
fucking
talk to
women.
that. We have an OpsCore RF, and in its own category, we have a bump helmet. Now I want to point out right now that we recommend
Oh my God,
OpsCore
they're
helmets.
downstairs
It
on
is
Bravo,
what
trying to
is
come upstairs.
best, pound for
They're trying
pound,
to come upstairs
protection
and
for
fuck all
protection.
our
But it
women.
should be noted,
They need
there's a
you guys
lot
to
of
fucking
really
get
good
it in
companies
here
out
and
there,
put your body
such
on
as
top
Team
of this
Wendy, such as
motherfucking map.
MTech, and of course
And fucking
Gentex, which is the
rape
parent
these
company to
motherfuckers.
OpsCore using slightly older technology. But to get back into it, with our maritime right here,
lost,
this is your
bro.
typical frag protection. These aren't specifically rated to stop rifle rounds. However, there have been
lost them, bro.
multiple
We lost
instances
the
where they
Alpha
have
Draconian
done so. So
Illuminati
you have to
leadership.
understand that these offer a lot of protection. A lot of people will say, why do I need a helmet? Because if I get shot in the head, I'm dead anyhow.
They're not
Not so
gonna
much
come
the
to my
case, my
house
friend.
and
I
take
would
you to
highly
eat now.
recommend, at the very least, having the protection that is offered by the Maritime /
I'm not
SF
gonna
system.
choose the
Now,
one
what's
that
great
you
about it
abducted.
is it offers all of your classic protection at a really good weight. Moving over, we have the OpsCore XR. This is one of the newer designs that they have, and what is incredible about this is we have a 2.8-pound helmet, so very little weight increase over the SF. Now, compared to the SF, we have the ability to stop 7.62 by 39 lead core rounds. Now, beyond that, we do have another helmet, the RF1. That will stop your common rounds. So 7.62, not the lead core, but the bad stuff, and it does an incredible job at that. However, with the RF1, we're looking at 3.5 pounds. So we're going up in weight as we go up in protection class. The question is, what's going to work for you? Hey, if you're a SWAT guy and you got your helmet on for all of 40 minutes for your raid, that RF1 is probably going to be awesome for you. Maximum protection, which is important. But if you're hiking around the mountains all day, you might want to sacrifice a little bit of that protection for something that's a little bit more lightweight, because your neck can only take so much, which brings me to our bump helmets right here. So with our bumps, a lot of people get this confused. They say, if I am going to buy a bump, which is much less expensive than these guys, which are anywhere from $2,000 to $3,000. I know, expensive. They say, if I'm going to buy something as cheap as a bump, why not buy a Chinese helmet, which gives me ballistic protection? But you're misunderstanding the purpose of the bump helmet. What's great about the bump helmet is for my military guys out there, especially my Army guys. I don't know why, but you guys are just chewed up by the Army and spit out. You probably have herniations in your neck. Every guy who's worn night vision, worn helmets professionally has it. And that's going to be really tough on you. So what's nice about the carbon is it's very lightweight. So I can still have the night vision, the comms. I can do all of the training that I need to do with a traditional helmet, but with much less weight without putting that additional strain on my neck. Because no matter what, those injuries aren't going away. So try to take care of yourself as much as possible. And that is why at different times I will use a bump helmet. All right, Micah, come on over here. So there's a lot of questions about the cut of the helmet. A lot of people see the high cut and they say, why would I sacrifice this with possibly taking a round through there, where traditionally it's been covered by older helmet designs, such as the older Mitch system, which is still a really good system. Well, it depends on what you need. So comms to me are incredibly important. For whatever situation you might find yourself in. So, to me, having the comms capability is much more important than having that little bit of extra protection that we have there. I will take the comfort, which we'll talk about later, of having this system in place. Now, for those of you who believe that the OpsCore is overall a sacrifice, it is not. Because if you look at the back, the OpsCore has excellent back protection as well as front protection. So it is a very well-shaped shell. And from many studies, people will typically tell you that most of the frag or impacts are coming from the back or from the front. There's a smaller likelihood. But no matter what, everything is going to be a sacrifice. Everything is a trade-off. There is no free lunch. So we know what type of helmet that we need based on what we do. Now the question is, what are we going to have on your helmet? And I can't stress this enough. Every ounce that you add to your helmet is a potential liability. You need to be so deliberate with what you're putting on your helmet, because I've seen a lot of crazy shit on helmets recently. So you have to understand, every ounce that we add on there, when we receive an impact to our head, whether it be from shrapnel, bumping something, whatever, that force, that weight from that helmet is going to your poor, delicate little spine. So as much as you work out, as hard as you make your neck, it's still a very weak part of the body. You need to make sure that you're taking care of it. So when we're talking about things that we need to have on our helmets, there's a couple things that are needed. In no particular order, we have camouflage, we have comms, we have night vision, we have battery packs and counterweights, we have lights, maybe, and strobes. So we're going to talk about all of that, as well as suspension systems, as we get into this. Camouflage. So somewhere out there, somebody's going to kill me for this one, there is a salty special operations guy that has had his maritime for 8,000 years. That's approximately how long they've been serving. And their maritime has been worn shiny. Because you see, when your OpsCore helmet shows up, it's got a nice camouflage paint in it that breaks up light. However, as it gets worn in, it begins to wear off and you get that shine back to it. As cool as that is, as much of a vibe as that is, and a sign of saltiness, it could possibly give away your position. So when it comes to camouflage and helmets, this is something that's become more of a, I guess, topic as we've gone from insurgency fighting to possibility of something else. So in general, at the very least, I do recommend a helmet cover. So the helmet cover that I typically use is this cover from ODG. As you can see, what's nice about them is it does allow points to retain wires, so I use it to retain my battery pack wires, as well as retention, whether it be for your strobe or for your battery packs. They're typically well done. So I very much so like the ODG cover. But to be clear, the OpsCore cover, which is this one right here, is also awesome. So this one's actually screwed in through the mount and then is Velcroed on. This is also a very good design as well. The point is you need to have some type of camouflage. So one thing that I've been really liking are these helmet covers from Low Pro Apparel. These things are pretty awesome. They add a lot of depth, a lot of camouflage to your helmet, and I think are a really good option. The point is, camouflage your helmet, get into that field craft, that is going to matter. So make sure that you do some amount of camouflage, at least to kill any type of shine or anything like that when it comes to your helmets. So comms, there are a lot of really good headsets out there. And I really have to take a moment to thank a lot of the people that I've talked to in coming up with these videos. You have to understand that my knowledge is always going to be limited. I have my experiences, so we have to, of course, thank Sam Houston from Silent Solutions, and of course Chip Lasky and the many other active duty special operations guys that we can't talk about because they're still active duty. But in any case, coming up here, my main bay are running Peltor ComTac 6s. With the 6s, they are really awesome because what they do have is a nib system. It is a wireless system that when you have other headsets that are configured properly that are within about 8 feet of you, and there's gunfire or there's something like that where it's too loud to the point where you can't be heard, it will actually transmit your voice and detect those levels and cancel out everything else. So that is a really cool thing about the Peltors. And another thing that I really like about the Peltors is my ability to passively cool. So if you come in right here, these mounts from 3M, as you can see here, get onto the arc rails right there. And when you use them, you pop them in and they put pressure against your helmet. So if we show that right here, so you can see when I actually need to pop them down and get good hearing protection, I can simply push those down. Now, when I need to cool off my ears, I can pop them out. However, when they are popped out, you will notice that I can still hear comms. That is why I really like the 3M system quite a bit. Now, there are, of course, a lot of problems with ComTacs. There are problems with the mounts, but there are certainly some good things about them. Now, if we compare that to another really good headset this one from OpsCore,
I will show you the power of the Alpha.
you can see right here that is mounting in a completely different fashion. So with this one right here, we have these arms that swing from the back. Now what's really nice about these is that, first off, it puts the weight further back. So typically, especially when you have a night vision system on, that adds a little bit more weight to the system, and that allows me to not have to put as much weight in my counterweight system, and it is much welcome. Now besides that, this is probably the most comfortable system of any of the con systems. So if I put this guy on,
Illuminati Draconian.
that is super comfy and just wonderful. Now the problem being, if I need to cool off my ears, my comms are all the way out. Dumbo coming in for landing. So typically, you bring them up and you fold them back, but no matter what, it's not the best. So the problem being, of course, as you can see, that I don't have a good way to passively cool my ears off, which is really annoying for me, because if you've been in the military, you know that a lot of military stuff, or a lot of tactical stuff, or if we're talking like real deal, 1%, maybe probably way less of combat, but a lot of it is moving around, talking to your boys and stuff. So being able to passively cool off your ears as you're moving around with pelters is wonderful. Now, if you really want to anger somebody or go full unholy union, we have what I call the 3M amps. So in this case, I have bastardized a 3M pelter mount. I have shoved it into an OpsCore mount, and then I have mounted it to my helmet. I want to thank the Rangers for showing me how to do this. You guys are always just making things horrible. So this is wonderful because I do consider the OpsCore amps to be a better headset than the pelters overall, and this gives me all the benefits. I can pop them out, and it gives me the added benefit of giving people cancer probably because it's so ugly. But real talk, guys, what's going to be important with your helmets, if you notice right here, is going to be routing of your wires. So if you come and take a look at how I have my pelters routed, you'll notice that these wires that connect the two systems together is routed internally through my pads. That way it doesn't create any hot spots. I see a lot of guys running these external. You can certainly do that. However, I do believe it creates a snag factor, and I do like running them internal if at all possible. Now, beyond there, a lot of guys ask, do I need a 2 down lead, a 1 down lead? So we see we have 2 right here. It depends on what you do in your job. Probably a 1 is going to be more than enough for you. You can see that on these particular EarPro right here. So you can see right here I have these wires retained. This is from Coffin Works. They do some pretty good stuff. You can also just take a Ranger band up around here and wrap your wires up there. There's a lot of good ways to do it. Point is, take care of your wires, get them out of the way, don't let them dangle. Some different battery packs and different counterweight systems will allow you to put the wires back there. Point is, just get them out of the way. But if there's anything to take away from this talk about comms, it's that you should have them. Great thing about helmets, they are a great platform for night vision. So the suspension system, the EarPro, all allows you to keep that night vision very, very stable. So if you'll come up here, the first thing that we have is a G24 mount. There are many different types of mounts available. Now, for a long time, people have said they liked or hated the G24 because the G24 does have a breakaway mount, and the reason for that is if you're fast roping out of a helicopter and your nods get snagged, it doesn't rip your head off, rather the mount breaks away. Or if you're wearing 31s and they're just going to break if you look at them. Just kidding. Yeah, you're done, dude, with 31s and they're just straight broken. But the G24 is like the classic military standard issue. Now there, of course, is the G22, which is a non-breakaway mount, and there are a couple other different mounts out there. In general, I'm just going to tell you guys, G22 or G24, that's kind of just the way to go. Unfortunately, they're super expensive. Blackhawks has the market cornered. There's not much you can really do about that. Now, with your night vision, there's a couple different things to think about. So if you come in here, a couple things to notice. These are PVS 31 Alphas. I do have 2 bands on them, as well as this nice little retainer from T-Rex Arms. That's right, we're going to fight at some point. Not yet, I'll tell you when. But the reason I have those is to retain my night vision, because this little mount right here can break, and you don't want to lose these. These are worth a lot of money, and you'd be very sad, and you'd have to tell your mom where all that money went that you spent her credit card money on. But in any case, I like this mount. It allows me to quickly attach my night vision, and if I want additional security on these, I can also attach the retention off my helmet. On newer helmets right here, you can see that the mount actually has the integral attachments right there. So they're a little bit closer to the system, a little bit more out of the way. Now, if you come up right here, you'll see a couple things I've done to stabilize this mount. So to start off with, one, this mount can shake a little bit. So I've actually shimmed it with a little bit of tape to make sure it doesn't jiggle or anything like that. Small trick of the trade. Beyond that, I have these bands right here that I wrap up and over the mount. That's just to make sure that it is super stable. It is, unfortunately, it does have a little play at times, and this kind of just keeps it from moving around so much. So that is typically how I have my night vision set up. Articulation is nice, of course, because you can get it closer to your helmet, because the further away from your helmet you get the system, the more weight you're adding. And that will certainly matter when we get into more heavy systems like the GPMVG 18s or some of the older systems like the PVS 15s or Sentinels or anything like that. My camera guy over there yelling about wobble on night vision systems that cost like $500 for a mount. I don't know what to tell you, Micah. They wobble. Shim them with tape. Surefire X300s also wobble on your light, and they're like $330, so go yell at Surefire. Now, speaking of weight, we can also move back to battery packs and counterweights. So the question is, why do you need a battery pack when a battery in a 31 or Sentinels or whatever will last 8 hours? Well, the reason for that is that they'll last 8 hours in good conditions. So where we are right now is it's getting pretty cold. It was actually just raining. As those batteries get cold, they're going to run a lot less efficiently. I've had PVS 31 Alphas burn through a battery in less than 2 hours. So having a battery pack to me is pretty essential. Now, what's nice about the battery pack is it does add a little bit of weight. However, it is not enough. And this brings us to the counterweights. For many of you guys, a counterweight system might seem a little counterintuitive, because why would I want to add weight to my helmet when I just yelled at you guys about adding weight to your helmet? Well, the reason is balance. You see, when these guys are all the way down, like I've shown you before, they're very far from your head, and that's going to cause some problems. The only way to alleviate that, because that is going to begin to cant your helmet forward, and that's going to be very hard on your neck. Your right here is just going to be screaming if you don't have any counterweight. So we add the counterweight to balance it out, to make it a lot easier on you. So in general, I'm typically using the OpsCore counterweight. You can see it right here on the back. So all you have to do is you can peel this guy open, excuse me, so get that guy open, and this allows you to add little weights that they have in there. You add the precise amount of weights that you need, and then you can balance that system. So these are pretty nice. There are many systems out there. We, of course, have to recommend the really good TNVC Mohawk, developed by those guys over there, and they run night vision all day, and that is a really good system. The point is, find a good counterweight system that works for you and use it. You will need it. Even something like PVS 31A, some of the lightest night vision devices out there require a little bit of counterweight in reality. I've seen a lot of guys muscle through having 31s mounted with no counterweight. I know you can do it. However, if you're gonna be running this for months on end and you care at all about your neck, you're gonna wanna have a little bit more weight on there to ensure that you just don't hate your life in 20 years when you can't move your neck. Quick note. A big shout out to Cannon Cube Tactical from Spiritus Systems rubber band trick. Very good idea. Now, lights are also going to be important in certain situations. This is very dependent. So for what I have done for like reading map work or looking at your right in the rain, which you should have, a small reading light is going to be important. Typically, the most used light is some type of Princeton Tech. We have this one right here. We also have the Charge light, which is right here, uses a more common battery, just a AA. We got right here. The point is, a nice little flexible light is going to save you a lot of headache, because not everything in the tactical world is going to be shooting and killing. A lot of it is figuring stuff out, reading maps, so it's going to be helpful. I always have some type of headlamp, but you can understand that it's kind of difficult to get a headlamp up when you have a helmet on and you need to keep that helmet on, as a quick note. Beyond these small little lights right here, you will see some people using some type of Surefire light, some type of Surefire Vampire, usually pointing up or down. The question is, why do people do that? So you have to understand that night vision needs light to work. There are areas, there are situations where there's going to be zero ambient light. Therefore, night vision will not work. So by using a light especially a vampire light. That means it's putting out IR light that is only detectable by night vision. If you aim that up, that can bounce off a roof, off a ceiling, and that can create a nice umbrella flood in areas where you need artificial IR light for CQB or for post-assault work or for SSE, which is sensitive site exploitation. That is basically finding important things on whatever target you just hit. So those 100% have a place, and you just have to understand on whether or not you need that based off of what you are doing. So if you're going to be in areas where there is no ambient light, you should probably think about having one of those on your helmet. So this is going to be super dependent on you, on who you're with and everything, but we have strobes. So right here we have a Hellstar 6. This is your strobe used just all over the world, proven, all that good stuff. So what a strobe does, in case you're not aware, is depending on what setting you have, it'll either be visible or it'll be IR. So we have our visible setting right here, and then if we click it up, we have an IR setting. So there are different things. It can be steady, it can be a strobe. And the question is why? Well, in the military sense, it can be used for many things. It can be used during free fall, so you can know where other guys are. It can be used for aircraft. In a sense of what we might be using it for, it could be used in emergency situations in something like a PACE plan. If you're not familiar with what a PACE plan is, it stands for Primary Alternate Contingency Emergency. That essentially is setting 4 different ways of communicating with teammates if one of them fails. So for example, if your primary way of communicating is a radio and that radio fails, what is the plan after that? And in emergency situations, perhaps a strobe could be one of the ways that you're communicating. The point is, it is going to be completely dependent on what you do, but understand that it is certainly something that can be added to your helmet that has a lot of benefit in many situations like the ones we just outlined. And it looks freaking cool. So we finish up the main parts of what is important to have on your helmet. There are a couple last things I do want to talk about which are important. So something like extra face armor, right? If you want to look like you're the Mandalorian or something like that, very cool first off. But why? This isn't something that you typically see being worn on a ground mission, but rather if you're vehicle mounted and that vehicle's moving you around, man, you can have as much protection as needed. So that's where something like this is going to come into play, and these integrate directly into helmets. M-Tech makes a version of these. They're definitely out there, and they definitely do have their place. Another cool thing that I want to talk about is, if you want to come over here and take a look at it, is what's called this step-in visor. You've probably seen it up to this point. So it's a visor. You can see it has these nice little rubber seals around there. So for guys who are used to those older turbofans and those older goggles, this kind of is able to replace them, and it integrates directly into your helmet. A lot of good things that I have to say about this. It is a very cool design, and then when you don't need it, you can easily just pull it off your helmet. And what's nice about that is I can leave these clips on, and they're very unobtrusive. They don't really get in the way, but at the same time, I can keep this in a pocket, in my pack, and I can put it on when needed. And this is going to be something that's definitely going to be probably more for vehicle work or for some really intense urban work where there's a lot of dust, grime, or something getting kicked up. There is certainly a purpose to it. So to wrap things up, if there's anything that I can explain to you of everything that we've talked about, the most important thing when it comes to a helmet is going to be wearing it. If your helmet isn't fitted to your head, because it's like I think GBRS Group said it best, it's like a baseball glove, right? These are going to be fitted to your head. Everybody's heads are a little bit different. Everybody's shaped weird. Some guys have a 5 head, some guys have a 3 head. The point is, find the pads that put this at the correct orientation on your head and wear it. Actually wear it. Like, sit down to your computer when you're, playing Ready or Not or whatever, and wear it for a couple hours. You'll be surprised at the types of results that you get. You'll be like, holy crap, I'm actually starting to get a headache after a couple hours with this thing on. Like, that's kind of concerning. Hike with it on. Actually train with it on. I don't know why people wear plate carriers, but then when it comes to helmets, they're like, ooh, that is crossing like the LARPing line. Like, there is a cliff and I will not cross that cliff because the helmet is too much. You should be training in helmets. You should be intimately familiar with them. And if you look right here on some of the newer OpsCore linings that we have, They're incredible. They're both incredibly comfortable. They fit very well. There's a variety of pads to get the correct height, and OpsCore has an entire video about making them fit well, as do many other manufacturers. Find them. I love these because they ventilate my head very well. And by ventilate, I mean not holes in my head, but rather they vent all the sweat off so that I'm not just sweating profusely. So guys, get out there, train in your helmets, find a helmet that is going to work for you, and set it up smart. Be deliberate with what you put on it, but more importantly, like we've always stressed, train in it. If you don't train in it, none of it matters, guys. So get out there and train. I'm not gonna say get professional training specifically on this, but you should get out there and use it. Use is what is going to be the difference between being good with the helmet and just having no idea what you're doing. Get out there, use them, be deadly. Guys, thank you so much for watching. We've got nothing else for you. Final thing for you guys. Possibly not bulletproof hats. Coming out soon. That's what we got for you. Cool. Save up.
At Grainger, we're for the ones who pay attention to every little detail. The ones who fuss, tinker, and sweat the small stuff. Because you know the tiniest thing can make the biggest difference when it comes to keeping business moving. We get it. We're the same way. Offering access to product experts to help you quickly and easily find what you need. So whatever your industry, you know you're always getting professional grade products. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Hey buddy, you okay? You've been following me all day. You filter your water? You didn't filter your water. Okay, where are your meds at? You don't have any meds. All right, man. Look at them out of my pack. We're gonna get you taken care of. So the question is, what is my experience with urban survival? Well, I served a long time as a survival, evasion, resistance, and escape instructor in the United States military. I got to teach it and, unfortunately, got to experience it in multiple ways, both in exercises throughout the United States, both civilian and military, as well as in real life, when I watched the country fall into madness post a natural disaster. And you have to understand how quick that spiral is, and it's just not what you think it is. If you think you're gonna be going door to door, kicking in that door and raiding bottle caps and trading it for Radaway, you're going to kick in a door and die. For my guys out there, my GWOT veterans who have kicked in doors for a living, you know that if you're spending all day kicking in doors with little support, you're not gonna live very long. Probably not a good idea to do it for very long. For my guys who don't know, we're here to educate you a little bit, because in this series, which is a direct spin-off of our Becoming Deadly in the Mountain series, you have to understand how complex and how large of a subject urban survival is. It's gonna be really hard for me to explain everything to you in 10 videos. So there's no way I can do it in one video, but we are gonna give you a really good intro to it. And the thing I have to explain to you guys really well is just how brutal it is. In today's video, when we're talking about urban survival, we're talking about a complete breakdown of a government, whether it be United States or wherever country you live in. We're talking about a superior force has taken over this country and you're trying to win it back. And when you're fighting a superior force, the thing you have to understand is no one gives a fuck if you're not ready. No one fucking cares. Nothing about life, about urban survival, about any of this stuff is fair. Just look at what's happening all over the world right now. You might think it's crazy to train or be ready for something like this, but the fact of the matter is, your preparedness to be at the level of a professional soldier could be the difference between a life of slavery or being able to defend your country, defend your family, your religious beliefs, your beliefs. This is serious stuff, guys. So I hope that you guys will join us as we talk today about urban survival. Now, before we get into it, we have to thank the biggest sponsor of this channel, the Sonoran Desert Institute. A big thank you to them. If you're looking to get your start in gunsmithing, they are the way to go. Go and check them out. Big thank you to them. Of course, we have the sponsors for this particular video. We have Zydex Computers, who makes our gaming PCs, and of course, Armslist. A big thank you to them. And don't forget the Patreon. Micah, Patreon.
It's bussin'.
It's bussin'. It's everything I don't want you guys to see, posted by my camera guy. Questions are answered by me, and absolutely what rocks. You'll get first dibs on new hats and slings and gear and all that stuff we're coming out with. So it should be pretty freaking cool. Ladies, gentlemen, last and forgotten, most certainly not by me, Guerrilla Warfare, welcome to the channel. So glad you can join us today as we talk about urban survival. So the first thing that we need to talk about is, we mentioned, we're fighting a superior force. The reason for this is we're coming down from the mountains. The mountains are a great place to disappear. However, if you want to retake a country, you're going to need to go into the city centers. When we're talking at this point, we're talking about a very destroyed environment. So you have to understand that there are going to be different considerations and different setups depending on what kind of phase of warfare you're in. At the phase we're at, we're talking straight up open warfare. We're talking destroyed buildings, destroyed cities, and if you've ever seen footage, if you've seen videos, simply look to Europe. There are tons of examples of it right now. So one of the first things that I see brought up when we talk about this type of setup is camouflage. Camouflage is very effective. If you looked at a destroyed city, a destroyed building, camouflage is going to work. There's no doubt about it. Whether it be multicam, whether it be ATAX, whether it be muted greens, these are excellent camouflages to have. Now, what's going to be difficult is, what is your adversary wearing? Are they wearing a digital green? Are they wearing a multicam? Are they wearing a Ranger green? Whatever it is, it might not always be in your best interest to be dressed like them. So consider your camouflage, but understand that it is incredibly effective. Now, a lot of people say they should dress like a gray man. Well, the fact of the matter is, we can't underestimate our enemies. At the very least, they're going to get your biometrics. So if you're caught in the vicinity of where you were just doing a raid, where you were just getting into a gunfight, where you were trying to retake a city, being a silly little goose, and you get found, even if you drop your gear and you're looking like a normal civilian, they're going to look at the patterns of the veins in your eyes, and they're going to get that biometric data. They're going to look at your fingerprints. They're going to have that data. They're going to, of course, swab you for explosives, for gunpowder residue, for anything. You have a cut on your cheek, there's going to be a lot of questions, and at minimum, they're going to know who you are. They're probably going to detain you. That's only if they follow the rules of war. If they don't, probably it's going to tell you to dig a hole and they're going to shoot you and throw you in there. So understand that the level of warfare that we're talking about, it doesn't really matter as far as blending into the population. That this is always going to depend on the situations, but we're talking all-out warfare right here. Now, going from that, we're going to be talking about general principles of urban survival, and we're going to be talking about pack setup, because they're pretty much related. Now, when it comes to a pack, I don't want you guys to simply copy what I'm doing. That's what you do every time. Please don't do that. There are many packs that are going to work well. In this case, we have a Mystery Ranch Tri-Zip, but the whole point of a pack, when we're talking about an urban situation, is going to be staying light on your feet and being able to move, to maneuver with it, to be able to fight with it on, to be able to have it to sustain ourselves. For my GWOT guys out there, this is in many ways going to be really familiar, except with a little bit less sustainment of the giant United States government. For my mountaineers, for my people who live in West Virginia, you're going to understand these setups pretty well, because you guys are used to hardship. But in general, here are the things that I'm looking for. I want a pack that is not going to be wider than my body and my kit. I want that because if I can fit my body and kit through, I want my pack to be able to fit through with me. In addition to that, I don't want the top of my pack to be going over the bottom of my neck right here. And the reason for that is, if I go prone, I want to be able to look up. Because if you've ever tried to go prone and look up with one of those high frame packs, it's pretty hard. You have to go into a modified position. For an assault pack, we just want to be able to do that. This is going to be geared towards about 4 to 5 days of sustainment. And again, a lot of that is going to be travel to the cities and then fading back out of the cities. Because if you're living in the cities, you're probably having a lot of hardships going on there. But in any case, before we do, the thing I want to talk to you guys about is the most important things that you guys can have in your kit. And that is going to be your situational awareness. This is something that I cannot teach, because it's something that you have to begin to practice. Get your faces out of your phones. Probably a lot of you guys have your faces in your phones right now. That's okay for right now. But I want you to start practicing actually paying attention to what is going on around you. This is something that is imperative that you get good at. And when it comes to that, we have a very simple acronym that we use in our Recce video that we'll talk about here. That is SILS. Stop, look, listen, smell. So when you're getting into an urban area, when you're going with your boys, because you should not be going alone. You should have a team with you. If you're alone, very high probability of death. Make sure that you have a team with you. Whether that team be people that you've linked up with after, whether it be neighbors that you're training with right now, you should be getting out there. Because there's a lot of people out there who would tell you that practicing in your military kit, if you haven't served, is LARPing. Well, tell that to the civilians in multiple areas throughout multiple times in history who have had to take up arms to defend their freedom. Wear your kit. As somebody who's served in the military for a long time, I give you permission. Who gives a fuck what people think about what you're doing? Because it could mean the difference between life and death later on, should anything ever happen. So, talking to SILs. The first thing we want to do when we're on patrol is stop. The reason we want to stop is we want to be able to get a better picture of what is going on. Typically, when I have my squad halt or when I've halted with the squad, we wait till all noise dies down. Now, in a city, that might not always happen, and that's what brings us to our next point. Look. What you want to do is you want to look around. What is occurring around you? What do you see on the ground? Simple things like you see fire on the ground. Somebody was just cooking. You see footprints. There was a recent rainstorm. You can see the wet prints from their boots. What type of footwear do they have on? Is it footwear common to that military? Is it footwear common to their special operations forces? Or is it simply civilians scavenging for food? Look around. What's around you? You should be looking for bullet casings for everything. Do you see helicopters flying? Those are things that you should start to note, because you should always have some type of pad on you to begin to get these things down so that you don't forget them. So again, you want to look. Next thing you want to do is listen. So again, as that sound dies out from your squad, you want to look around and listen. What are you hearing? Are you hearing the distant crackle of fire? Do you hear gunfire? Do you hear explosions? Do you hear helicopters, jets? Is it signs of your forces? Is it signs of enemy forces? Because if there's one thing that you can tell really well, it's a helicopter. Different helicopters have very distinct noises, and these are things you should become very familiar with. Again, so listen. Finally, smell. What are we smelling for? Well, if you've been living in the woods for a long time, you're going to have a different scent. That's probably one of the most interesting things about being out in the woods for a long time, is seeing how your scent changes, or simply going to another country or a different area. You will notice that your scent is going to be different. That's due to hygiene, that's due to what you eat and what you drink. So what you have to understand is these enemy forces are probably going to smell a little bit different from you. Can you smell them? Do they use detergents to clean themselves? Soap. That's going to have a certain smell to it. You need to be able to pay attention to this. You smell gasoline. If you're with a force that doesn't have any type of gas-powered vehicles because they've been long destroyed and you smell gasoline, that could be a good sign of an enemy force. When I used to teach evasion back in the day, when we'd have a vehicle approaching, we didn't have vehicles, so it's like that oh shit factor, right? Everyone would prone out, be completely still, and you just listen to that engine coming closer and closer and closer, and hopefully it kept going. You could hear it fade away. Or if it stopped, it's like that pucker factor went up, your heart rate started increasing. You have to understand like how kind of amped you might be, and you have to learn to keep yourself calm. That's why we have to continue to train with this type of stuff. So with those things out of the way, understanding our most important tools aren't so much what we carry on us, but rather your mind. Now, you do need some stuff to survive. So we're going to be talking about several different topics when it comes to what we have in our packs. We're going to be talking about sustainment, both water and food. We're going to be talking about mission essential gear. We'll be talking about entry and exit tools, and finally we'll be talking about miscellaneous things that you should keep on you. But to start off, we're going to talk about the most important thing, hydration. 3 days. That's about the amount of time you can go without water in a military type operation before you're dead. I will tell you from personal experience in going through multiple dehydration exercises that after about day 1, you begin to cramp up to the point where you can't even open your fingers, where you have to use the ground to pry them open. By the end of day 2, you are awaiting death. So yes, you can go 3 days in a military operation before you die. However, after about day 1, you're going to find yourself pretty mission ineffective. It's incredibly important that we have water. Now, the thing that you have to understand about the city is how dirty the water is. In scenarios that I've done throughout the United States, even in a city that is working, that is functioning, where water purification is happening and there's no bombs being dropped, the water in a lot of cases is not drinkable. So in a lot of cases, we would gather the water prior to going into the city and have that water on us. And that's a general principle I go with. Now, let me explain that a little bit further for one moment. In a jungle-type environment, you almost never drink water that's falling through the canopy. And the reason for that is animals shit on that canopy. And then the water hits it, it will liquefy that, it will drip down, and you think fresh rainwater. But in reality, it's dripping through those feces. Same thing with the city. Birds, rats, whatever, are going to crap on the rooftop. That water's going to hit, it's going to drip off that rooftop. Meanwhile, you're sitting there with your bag, just gathering all that water coming off the roof, being like, sweet nectar of the gods. In reality, you might die. With filtering, it's going to be better, but just understand how dirty water can become. And especially when it comes to groundwater, it's going to be contaminated with gasoline, if there's explosives, any of that residue is going to be really bad for you. You want to try to keep yourself in fit fighting shape. So here's how I typically handle my urban water situations. It's fairly basic, guys. I have multiple bags of water that I can plus up water as necessary. And what's so great about these modern water containers is they can easily scrunch up when they're not being used and take up virtually no space. So I can easily plus up to nearly 20 liters, which is a ton of water. But there might be times when it's going to be necessary to hold that much. Now, 20 liters is, of course, very excessive, but you never know when you're going to need that much. In any case, I typically use a Sawyer filter when I'm doing any of my water purification. The reason for that, it is simple. It can last 100,000 gallons. It is just what I go for. In the case of this MSR bag right here, I can simply plug it in, use gravity, and I can purify my water on the go. What's also really nice is that at any water source, whether that be in a city, whether that be outside a city, if it's good water, there's probably going to be people there. And if there's people there, there's a possibility of getting spotted by somebody you don't want to get spotted by. Try to minimize the amount of time that you spend at a good water source. So what's nice about these bags is, of course, I can simply run over, I can dip this in, fill this up to 10 liters, I can scrunch it down, I can go ahead and shut it, and I can take that with me to wherever I need to go, and I don't have to purify at the source. So yes, a lot of those filters that you pump right there in the water are really great. Just understand that that time spent at that water source could ultimately lead to your death. So I definitely recommend something that you can dip and go. One last thing to consider too is I have dirty and clean bags. You can see right here, this thing that says dirty on it. And what I'm going to do is filter that unfiltered water out into a clean container, such as this Hydro Flask right here. And this thing is awesome. Therefore, you have your clean water bags, which you have clearly marked, and you have your dirty bags. And you never mix them because you don't want to make that mistake and die of dysentery. One last note is that I typically carry an extra filter on me. They're so small and so lightweight that I think it makes perfect sense to have more than one. So that is how I pack for water. We learned that from spending a lot of time on the Pacific Crest Trail and watching how those hikers did their water long term. And this is a very simple solution that they came up with. Mission essential gear. They can cover a whole lot of things. So we're going to try to keep it as concise as we can, but it really depends on what you're trying to do and how much of a silly goose you're trying to be when you get into the city. First thing, you should always have ammunition on you. I typically keep mine in stripper clips with a couple extra magazines. I keep this towards the very top of my pack or in the very top flap, which is the Claymore pouch right there. That works really well. Make sure you have a quick way of getting that ammunition off the stripper clips into your magazines. Ammunition. Batteries. Whether it be for your radio systems, whether it be for your observation devices, make sure that you have enough batteries to sustain you for the duration of whatever you're going to be doing. On the side of the pack right here, in our little Spiritus pouch, we have this thermal device right here. Whether this be used for observation, whether you're doing some type of recon assault, whether you're just fighting, you should have some type of thermal observation device. Again, I know this seems unfair because these are so expensive, but if you look at any of the conflicts going on right now, everybody's using thermal. If you don't have thermal, you're going to die to somebody who does use thermal. Please have it on you. Other mission essential items that we have is a padding for the thermal, also padding for my night vision if I'm switching it off of my helmet. We have our weapon cleaning kit, and then of course I probably think one of the most overlooked items is some type of small bag. So I have a simple laundry bag right here. This can be used to store whatever, whether it be my buddy's gear because he got shot. I can add to the amount that I have on. Some guys keep a backpack in there. Have some type of extra bag that you can carry your buddy's gear if he goes down. The point of the matter is I'm not going to be able to explain to you everything that you should carry according to your mission because I don't know what your mission is going to be. Just understand that stuff should be easily accessible and should probably include ammunition, and batteries to sustain you throughout the duration of that operation. Next up, and way lower on the list, is going to be food. So a lot of people put a really hard emphasis on food, but you really don't need a whole lot of food. You need a pick-me-up, you need enough to sustain you, but you don't need a 3-course meal. The biggest thing here is going to be stuff that you can eat cold and stuff that is very calorically dense. A little bit of variety is going to help you out a lot, but you can really make do with not a lot. Typically what I do is I'll carry a bunch of gummy bears, a bunch of Sour Patch Kids in my cargo pocket. I'll have a little bit more in my pack. In addition, I will have tortillas, peanut butter with some green powder mixed in, that's like a vegetable powder, as well as a little bit of MRE stuff with me to ensure that I have a little bit of variety. But you don't need a whole lot. And again, for those of you who've been operating perpetually in your basement for the last couple of years, you probably have a little bit of extra survival weight on you anyhow, so you're going to be fine. Next up is going to be entry and exit tools. And I think this is one of the most interesting parts of the urban environment, is that it's fairly easy to get bottlenecked in a lot of locations. So due to the vertical nature and the fact that everything's man-made, there's going to be doors, there's going to be windows, and you're going to need tools to get through them. Entry and exit tools. A lot of people think of this as a breaching charge. You blow a door, you go in, you kill, it's awesome, and you're just hero of the day. But there's a lot more to it, because in an urban situation, there's a lot of man-made obstacles that you're going to need to get through. And this might not always be just to get into somewhere. This might also be to get out of somewhere. Having multiple exit avenues is going to be extremely important in an urban situation. So having these tools could literally mean the difference between getting away or getting captured or killed in many situations. Now, there's a lot of different tools out there. At minimum, you should have a lockpicking kit. There's a lot to say about this. I want to talk about this for literally an hour. Go on YouTube, research it, practice it. You should have this in the bag before anything ever pops off. Just practice it. Now, lockpicking takes some time. It is also very quiet. Now, there are louder methods that are a little bit more expedient. Things like a sledgehammer. Those work very well. Things like a bolt cutter. Those are absolutely essential. And somebody on your team should have a bolt cutter. We have an axe, for example, if you want to go full fireman on this. It's going to depend on your environment and the types of obstacles you think you're going to run into, but at minimum, bolt cutters. Now, past there, if you really want to have the key to the city, we of course have a breaching shotgun. So when it comes to a breaching shotgun, there are a couple considerations to think about. This is an 870 MCS. I would generally recommend for most people to have some type of standoff device right here, because it can get a little bit dicey if you don't have it. But even if not, what you should realize is that a lot of different rounds will work when it comes to breaching a door. Buckshot and slugs can work. However, there's a pretty high chance of a ricochet. You should have some type of breaching round. We're lucky that we can get them from great companies like Royal Arms. You can get them from Federal. The SMBs I don't have as much experience with, but you have to understand that right now you can buy breaching rounds and they work extremely well. Practice with them, understand the techniques. We will have a video eventually about breaching doors and how to do it and the angles that you should be using. But for now, it just stands to say that you should have one of these on you. If you notice, I also have a lanyard on it. This is to attach it to my plate carrier when I need it, along with a magnet to keep it out of the way. So the pack is simply for traveling with it, but it can get right onto my kit. And if you're super spicy and you get your hands on breaching charges at some point in the future, awesome, understand that. Can't talk about it too much, but we'll learn it. Moving on from there, shelters. There's a lot to be said for shelters. Generally, we're not going to talk too much about shelters in an urban environment. If you're going to be sleeping, kind of sleep wherever you're observing, getting ready for an ambush or raid, whatever have you. But if you need to hole up somewhere, here's a good acronym for you. BLISS. Blend. Make sure that you blend into the environment. Make sure that you are low, that you're below the level of the eye. Also, another thing to think about is don't get too high or get too low to where you have no avenues of escape. Make sure that wherever you are, that you have multiple avenues of escape. Make sure that it looks irregular, it doesn't look like a shelter. Make sure that it's secluded. Make sure that you make little sound. And what I mean by that is beyond just talking. Think about the way you sleep. Are you the type of sleeper where you toss and turn? Add cement, add gravel on top of that cement, and think about the amount of noise that you'll make. These are all things to consider when you're coming up with your shelter. Now, beyond that, we talked about thermal. You don't want to die from thermal, so an extra little layer of protection can be this guy right here. This is a thermal poncho. This is from Relv Camo. It is two-sided, and it is just that little bit of extra in case you're ever in a situation where you need to not get detected by thermal. Again, the thing about thermal is it has to see you. So this is kind of the last resort. Don't let this touch you because it's still going to heat up. That's just the way it goes. So you want it to be off your body. That is why I have the lines on it so I can tie it up as necessary. Layers. You don't want to just have one super hot jacket that you put on. What you want to have is multiple layers. So we have both a thermal top, thermal bottoms, as well as some type of rain protection because where we are, it rains a ton. In addition to that, I also keep some type of rain cover with me. This can both add camouflage to your pack as well as keep the water from getting in and making everything super wet. Don't forget socks. Always have extra socks. I typically will carry at least 2 pairs with me. The socks that are dirty or wet, put them right here on your pants and let them dry out as you walk. That way you take care of your feet. Because again, if you don't take care of your feet, you will die, whether that be from trench foot or whether that be because you can't run as fast because your feet are so messed up. It really doesn't take that long for your feet to get in very bad condition. I've seen as few as 4 days before somebody's feet were just completely donezo. Emergency blanket. If things are really, really bad, this will keep you alive, will reflect your heat back towards you. I keep this just in case. Have one. It takes up little to no space. On the side of the pack right here, I've got tubular nylon. I also keep this on my plate carrier. If you don't know what this is for, go to Spirit Systems. They have a great video on the many uses of this. Have it on you, have a lot, have everybody on your team have it. It is an incredibly useful thing, but if you don't train with it, it doesn't matter. All right, a couple miscellaneous items to talk about. First off, right in the rain. If you don't have a right in the rain, fuck you. One thing that people always forget about is everybody has a trauma kit on their plate carrier, on their weapon belt, but not a whole lot of people have a boo-boo kit. So like, I can't tell you how many times I've gone out with military guys on an exercise or whatever, and somebody cuts their finger and they're like, I cut my finger. Does anybody have a Band-Aid? Literally no one. So carry some type of boo-boo kit on you. It's going to be incredibly important. With your boo-boo kit, what I recommend is going into a doctor. Tell them you're going to travel to Nepal or you're going to go on some type of long backpacking trip and ask them if you can get antibiotics, antidiarrheals, antiemetics. These medicines are going to be worth their weight in gold in a situation where you're not able to get medicine. Have them on hand beforehand. Besides medicines, you should also have simple things like triple antibiotic ointment, Band-Aids, butterfly Band-Aids, those simple things that you take for granted until you absolutely need them, because a small cut can easily become an infection that can kill you. So have a Band-Aid. Important things like foot powder, like a toothbrush just to brush your teeth a little bit, keep those gums healthy. I know it sounds crazy, but if you're doing back-to-back operations, just out there every single day, coming back, refitting, going back out, you still have to take care of your gums. You still have to take care of your feet. Make sure you have that stuff with you. Make sure that with your foot powder, you have stuff that is unscented. You don't want to give yourself away. At the very top of my pack, I always carry little sugary things as well as liquid IVs. These are absolutely necessary. Make sure that you have liquid IVs. You will need them. They can be the difference between life and death. Have a can opener, have a spoon, always have an extra spoon with you. Simple items right there. Wet wipes. Don't let yourself get swamp ass and get infected down there. It's a bad way to go. If you are running ATAC or some type of electronic device that needs power, we do. Have some type of charger. You can charge these back at your base with solar chargers. Have some type of battery pack. For really bad situations where you need to signal friendlies or something along those lines, I do have some VS-17 panel. I recommend having it. They pack down to nothing. And you never know when you're going to need it for friendly force identification. More spoons. Just really sucks to not have a spoon. Mike, you ever lost a spoon when you were backpacking?
I've also just forgotten spoons.
Yeah, it sucks, doesn't it?
Yes.
You like digging into food with like your hands.
I literally pour the Mountain House into my mouth.
It's disgusting. Yeah, you don't want to do that. Have a spoon. Be civilized if you can. Why survive when you can thrive? So that brings us to the end of our talk about basics of urban survival and your assault pack. You don't need to copy what I'm doing. There are a million different ways to do this. What I do ask you to do is have good discussions in the comments and let this be a jumping board for you to set up your own pack, to figure out ways that are going to work for you And again, the biggest thing about this is actually do it. Actually pack your pack. Move with all their gear on. How does it work for you? These are things I can't tell you. These are things that are going to be specific to you. Get out there, do it. Now, there are lots of great places to get training when it comes to this. Bear Solutions actually has a bear survival. It's actually a guy that I know very well who teaches a lot of this stuff. Get out there, train to it, be better, make yourself the weapon. All this stuff is really cool, but the fact of the matter is that if you don't have any knowledge, you're just going to be expensive loot drop for someone. Final thing for you guys, I'm going to say it again. If you're not fit, you're going to die. I'm going to keep harping on it. Be fit.
Hey man, everybody's gone, dude. We got 200 moving on us. We gotta go right now.
Beloved children, war and death. These are two very polar opposites in life. And it might seem like these are two things that are very far from each other. But if there's anything we've learned in recent times, it's that these aren't nearly as far as we think they'd be. It might seem like a fantasy that you'd need to have the skills that we're going to talk about today. That you should know how to evade a professional military, how to evade trackers, how to evade a untrained military. And yet, as recently as Hamas invading Israel, where concert goers had to evade those enemy forces, to multiple others who have had to go through it in real life, it's a reality. And it might seem far away right now, but the fact of the matter is that information is free. And today we're going to be getting out information that could very well mean the difference between living a long life, living with your family, living with your children, having children, or it could be the difference between dying because you don't know how to get away from those individuals. And everything that we're going to be talking about today, these are not skills that I can make you experts on. This is a intro. This is a beginner's course. I can't make you an expert in evasion. I can't make you masterful at this. But we can make this a launching point for you to practice, for you to learn more skills. You actually have to get out here and try this stuff out, because if you don't, I do promise you that all the information of the world does not translate into real world experience and real world training and actually putting on the pack and trying what we're talking about today. So, with all that being said, as heavy as this topic is, let's go ahead and launch into it. Now, before we do have to thank our sponsors, of course, for allowing us to give this free information out. So we, of course, have to thank Sonoran Desert Institute. If you're looking to get your start in gunsmithing, they are great people to go to. We, of course, love who, Micah?
Primary Arms.
So, real talk, we do have an expensive setup there, but they make great optics at a great price, and we definitely recommend them. So go and check them out. You should be dry firing. You should be being prepared. So get out there, try out Mantis. They will turn your gun into a dry firing machine. It is the way to get good. And of course, AEC Ammunition. We're not going to be shooting much at all today, but they do sponsor ammo to allow us to train, to allow us to show you guys how to train, and to give you guys valuable insights. So with all that being said, talk is, in this case, really important. So let's get into it and let's show you how this all works. So credentialing, why should you listen to me? So I spent 6 years of my military career as a survival, evasion, resistance, and escape instructor, where I taught this very thing to at-risk DoD personnel, all the way from your air crew all the way up to your Tier 1 guys. In addition to that, afterwards, I worked as a tactical air control party, as a special warfare officer, and did a lot more of this in a more of a tactical environment. So I have a lot of experience there. Now, in addition to that, I've taken a literal shit ton of tracking, counter-tracking, both military and civilian, survival courses, and we're going to be drawing upon all that experience, primarily from those really interesting individuals I've learned from, whether it be from European survival experts, from people who specialize in desert evasion out in Israel or out in Saudi Arabia. I've had this really eclectic group of survival and evasion experts who have taught me a lot in addition to tracking and counter-tracking. We're going to be drawing upon all those experiences. Now, we're obviously out here in the mountains in kind of a more coniferous forest. Now, that being said, we'll be talking about every different environment, and you're going to have to apply it to the environment that you're in. So understand those things. Let's go ahead and let's get into it. There is nothing that is more terrifying than being hunted by a human. Whether you've played hide and go seek, Mike, you played hide and go seek before, right? You're like, it's always a little bit of a rush. Humans are apex predators, so being hunted by a human, few have experienced it, and far few have lived to tell the tale of it. So the thing that you need to understand going into this too is you need to learn to control your heart rate, whether that be combat breathing, whatever you do to find your happy place. You want to make sure that you're not getting so worked up, so crazy that you start making mistakes. Keep that heart rate at a good medium. And what's going to come along with that is fitness, right? If you're not fit, just like we've always said, you're going to fucking die. So keep yourself calm. And whatever the situation might be, you are at a concert in Israel, Hamas flies in on their paragliders, you're engaging some force in Minecraft, whatever it might be, and you need to get away because either everybody's dead, you've run low on ammo, and you can't continue the fight. Whatever reason it might be that you need to get away from a force, you're doing recce, and they discover your position, and the entire army is now moving on you. Whatever it might be, what we need to understand is how a tracker is going to work. So a tracker, if they lose sight of you, is going to have to find evidence of which way you've went by your footprints. It's going to take them a while. So the first thing that we're going to do once we've been spotted, we're breaking that contact, is we're going to, in layman's terms, get the fuck away. We're going to put as much terrain between us, whether that be micro terrain like small rocks and small hills if we're in the desert, or if we're out here, we put entire mountains. Your fitness is kind of the thing that's going to stop you from going as far as you need to go. Get as much time, distance, and terrain as you possibly can away. That's going to be extremely important to making sure that you break that contact with whoever it is. So we want to put as much ground between us, we want to put as many obstacles between us, and the longer that we're able to go because we're fitter, the better it's going to be for us. So again, terrain, ground, anything that we can put between us. If you're in the desert, small rises and dunes, small rocks, things like that, that micro terrain is going to be awesome for you. And out here, we have trees, we have larger hills and mountains, because a lot of people are like, oh, you're going to get seen by thermal. Sure, that thermal needs to see you though. And by putting trees in between you, that thermal ain't seeing you. It needs a direct line of sight onto you. So in layman's terms, we are going to get the fuck away from them as fast as we can. There's actually not a whole lot of technique when it comes to how we're moving. We can talk about that a little bit later.